Not a safe situation. Do not approach this fugitive.
Cavalcante escaped 12 days ago, not long after he was sentenced to life in prison for murdering an ex-girlfriend. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has arrived in Russia to meet with President Vladimir Putin. Kim is expected to offer him weapons and ammo for Russia's war in Ukraine in exchange for economic and military aid to North Korea. Now, an update from Fox's Jared Halpern on a proposed U.S.-Iran prisoner swap.
5 Americans who the administration says are unjustly detained in Iran would be released as part of a prisoner swap, freeing 5 Iranians in U.S. custody. In addition, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has signed off on waiving sanctions to allow $6 billion in frozen Iranian funds to be transferred from South Korea to Qatar without financial institutions facing U.S. penalties.
The administration says that money could only be used for humanitarian purposes. Former President Trump's lawyers are again taking aim at the federal judge presiding over his looming trial on charges related to efforts to overturn the 2020 election. They're asking Tanya Chutkan to recuse herself, claiming she's prejudged the case and the former president. America's listening to Fox News.
57 degrees. Skies are clearing after overnight rain showers. 57 degrees. 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. 5 firefighters were hurt after a fire truck crashed into a home in Chicago's Auburn Gresham neighborhood. The truck crashed near 77th and Damon around 10 last night with emergency lights lit at the time of the crash. A trial underway for 2 former Illinois DCFS employees involved in the A.J. Friend case. Carlos Acosta and his former supervisor, Andrew Polovin, each facing charges of endangering the life of a child in reckless conduct. Police officer Kimberly Shipbaugh had been to the home after an injury to the young child.
He wouldn't answer. He directly looked to his mother, who then answered for him.
Both former DCFS workers were involved in a 2018 investigation into allegations that 5-year-old AJ had been abused. Acosta deemed the abuse accusation unfounded after consulting Polovin. McHenry County State's Attorney Patrick Kennelly says that should never have happened.
The defendants closed this case without taking any protective action. Because of that, AJ is dead and buried, going on 4 years now, when he should have just started 4th grade.
The pair were later fired from DCFS following AJ's death in April of 2019. Friend's parents have been convicted and sentenced in the case. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote this week on a $25 million settlement in a Chicago police misconduct case. 2 liquor stores and a bar were robbed Sunday night on Chicago's northwest side. The first robbery took place around 10:30 at Division Street Liquors. Later, 2 armed males walked into Ola's Liquors on North Damon, stole a cash drawer, and robbed several patrons before running away. Yan Gomes knocked in 2 go-ahead runs in the 9th. Cubs beat the Rockies 5-4 in Denver.
Those wins are important. We can, go ahead and then, give up a couple runs and kind of shut down. But, it's a good sign for this team that even when we're behind until that last out, we're going to give us a chance to win.
Yesterday's series opener between the Sox and Royals rained out. Game will be made up as part of a doubleheader later today. The news is service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets. Join today, 560theanswer.com/join. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Think identity theft won't happen to you? Think again. There's a new victim every 3 seconds in the U.S., over 15 million this year alone, and many don't even know they're victims. LifeLock alerts you to identity threats you could miss, even when you monitor your credit. If your identity is stolen, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Cardiologists at Oxford University discovered that classical music lowers blood pressure, and September is Classical Music Month. So put on some Mozart or perhaps a little Beethoven, but if classic music isn't your jam, maybe you prefer classic rock like me. I have another suggestion for you. 120 Life, a functional juice drink made with natural ingredients like tart cherries, cranberries, and beetroot. It's what I reach for when the Marxist mafia gets my blood boiling, which is every day. It's delicious, it's easy, it works fast. 120 Life helps lower blood pressure and will help you stay hydrated as well. You can check it out at 120life.com. That's 120life.com. It's a great website for information and helpful resources to help manage high blood pressure. And for your convenience, you can try their 2-week trial pack with money-back guarantee. Use coupon code LIBERTY at checkout for 15% off your order plus free shipping. Try 120 Life today at 120life.com. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you. So whether it's through Music Beats or Beetroot or even Beethoven, it's all about getting your blood pressure under control.
6:07. Let's get an update on the roads this morning. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time brings us right to the Kennedy, and 32 minutes in from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. You are jammed up Austin on the inbound side to Montrose. The Ike in 36, 390 to the old post office. Stevenson 37, 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. 57 and the Bishop Ford already jamming into the Ryan Merge. And in Bensonville this morning, bad accident, Spruce and Irving Park Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies early, then some sun later on. High 69, partly cloudy, brief shower or two tonight, low 55. Clouds, a bit of rain tomorrow, the high 66. Sunshine, terrific day on Thursday, the high at 73. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
57 at O'Hare, 59 Midway, 51 in Aurora. Your next news update, 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Alpha Wealth Group, bringing the trilogy of estate, tax, and investment planning together. Visit alphawealthgroup.com for a free report.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Governor Glenn Youngkin. Interesting timing here. What took you so long? Glenn Youngkin pardoned Loudoun County dad Scott Smith, who was targeted by a Soros-funded DA in Loudoun County for disorderly conduct because he showed up to a Loudoun County school board meeting and wanted to know what the hell was going on in that high school after his daughter was raped by a dude pretending to be a girl.
And wearing a skirt. Made easy access for him to.
He got charged.
Yeah, he got charged
with disorderly conduct when this happened at the board meeting a couple years back.
He's trying to disrupt things.
So it was a general melee that involved not just Scott Smith, but other parents when word got around what had happened. A second time at a second high school after the superintendent covered up the first time it happened at the first high school, people wanted answers.
Yeah, what ticked Mr. Scott Smith off was that he said there's, no investigation. He's like, what do you mean? My daughter was attacked.
By the way, the superintendent of Loudoun County, you'll recall, was a particularly detestable figure. He was indicted, misdemeanor charges for things like falsifying a public proclamation and improperly preventing an employee from a court hearing, just minor misdemeanors. But anyway, Scott Smith became the face of domestic terrorism, according to the regime, according to the FBI, according to the Department of Justice. You'll recall this Scott Smith and what went on in Loudoun County. Not only did it propel Glenn Youngkin into the governor's mansion in Virginia, it also was the subject of the grilling that Merrick Garland got before both the House and the Senate about this characterization of parents like Scott Smith and so many of the parents at Loudoun County that were pushing back, even a lot of left of center parents, pushing back against the curriculum, against sort of just the imperious nature of the school board and the administration, as well as, obviously, incidents of violence that were covered up by said administration. For example, this was an exchange between Chip Roy of Texas and Merrick Garland on the topic.
Believe that a father attending a meeting, exercising his First Amendment rights, and yes, getting angry about whatever lies are being told about his daughter being raped in the school he sent her to be educated in, that this is domestic terrorism? Yes or no?
No, I do not think that parents getting angry at school boards for whatever reason constitute domestic terrorism. It's not even a close question.
Ted Cruz and Merrick Garland, same topic.
Department of Justice, you did no independent research on what was happening, did you?
The memo has nothing to do with partisan.
Did you do independent research?
The memo has.
Did you do independent research?
The memo has nothing to do.
Okay, you're not
with
answering that
politics.
question. You've testified you know nothing about the violent sexual assault that happened in Loudoun County, even though it's one of the bases in this letter.
I read about it since then.
Okay. You told the House last week you knew nothing about it.
Not know at the time, no.
Okay. This week, the court concluded that a 14-year-old girl was violently raped by a boy wearing a skirt in the girls' restroom. The school district covered it up, released the boy, sent him to another school where he violently raped another girl. The father, who Mr. Hawley just showed you, was the father of the first girl. He was understandably... Do you understand why a parent would be upset when your daughter is raped at school, the school board covers it up, and then lies to you and claims there have been no assaults, we have no instances of assaults in our bathroom, and that was a flat-out lie, as the court concluded this week? Do you understand why the parent would be upset?
Absolutely, and any expressions of upset are completely protected by the First Amendment.
Except you just called him a domestic terrorist.
I never called him that. That's not correct.
This letter calls him a domestic terrorist. You based a direction to the FBI, an official direction from the Attorney General, on this letter, and I'll tell you what, the NSBA is so embarrassed of this letter, they've apologized for it and retracted it, but you don't apparently have the same willingness to apologize and retract what you did. Let me ask you something.
And then Scott Smith was charged with disorderly conduct and obstruction of justice by the DA there, a woman named Buddha Bibaraj, who, again, Soros funded, a local Kim Fox, if you will.
And yesterday she tweeted out, Governor Youngkin is once again using Loudoun County for his political gain.
Loudoun County, which is a 2-to-1 Dem county.
Yeah. And your point of contention was, why did he wait so long, right?
Yeah, he's been in office for a year and a half. He's in office in part because of this case.
You're darn right he is.
Here's what Scott Smith had to say about the pardon that was finally delivered. Scott Smith's happy, but he's not too happy.
So you get a phone call. They read the document to you. How'd you feel when you got that news?
I really liked what I heard the document say. I think it's pretty clear and convincing to the public that what happened to me that day should have never happened. I'm glad that this is finally over, but it's really just begun. You know, what happened to me cannot ever happen to another American again. And it was kind of a bittersweet moment to me, you know, to accept this pardon, because, you know, a year ago when I filed this appeal, I actually looked forward to my day in court with a jury trial. But as everything has played out over the last 2 years and watched, you know, the justice system be questionably, you know, two-tiered, you know, the justice system being politicized, it just was apparent to me that unfortunately in today's America, getting a fair and free trial is next to impossible, especially if your case has played out in the major media and it's political. So again, you know, I'm really thankful for the off-ramp, you know, but the lesson to be learned out of all of this is I fought hard for 2 years, and basically I had to accept a pardon and an off-ramp because of the condition of our justice system. And that should scare every American out there.
It absolutely should. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. 2-year fight. He appealed the obstruction charge. That was overturned. He was still facing the disorderly conduct charge before this pardon finally came. Glenn Youngkin now talking about it, too. It's, I mean, remember, Brett Baer told us he thinks it's more likely than not that Glenn Youngkin gets into the GOP presidential primary. So maybe that this is the purpose of the timing. If that's true, it doesn't speak well of Glenn Youngkin. Just waiting a year and a half to get this done doesn't speak well of him. This was a day one or a week one priority, or it should have been. Regardless, it's happened now, but what Scott Smith said there is really important. You don't just say, oh, it's great, got that wrapped up, good. Elections matter. You got somebody sensible in there, and now Scott Smith's fine. He's not fine because he's thinking about the bigger implications, which what we all should be thinking about. That but for the election of Glenn Youngkin, his legal saga would have continued. The facts didn't change, but it's a matter of justice being meted out or not based on the political dynamics of the accused party, the prosecutor, of the politics of other relevant parties. That's not a justice system. That's not a justice system that supports a free society, at least, as we say over and over again. And the other thing this reminds us of, too, and I mean, it's the corollary to Trump's value proposition as a candidate. The value proposition as a candidate. Those people in Hollywood, in D.C., in academia, on Wall Street, I know them all. They're even worse than you think. The Victor Davis Hanson summary of it. And the corollary to that is what he says all the time, increasingly these days. They're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm standing in their way. Scott Smith is a case study in that, isn't he?
312-642-5600. Turnkey.pro answer line. You can also reach us all morning long on our text line, 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Don't defund the police. Hire the police to protect your business. Rising crime has been crippling business owners in Illinois more and more in the past year. Blue Star Security can protect your most valuable asset, your business, to protect both you and your customers. Blue Star Security is the only security company in Chicago with over 500 off-duty police officers, all W-2 employees.
I'm Anthony Barchetto, president of Blue Star Security and a 20-year law enforcement veteran. Our team is exclusively state-certified active and retired law enforcement professionals who provide the highest standards in security. We serve Fortune 500 companies as well as small businesses and individuals, responding rapidly and seamlessly to each assignment. Blue Star Security's technology allows mobilization of off-duty officers quickly and efficiently. Our primary mission is to provide unparalleled protective services for each assignment with integrity while maintaining our commitment to community service in the Chicagoland area.
Visit online to schedule a free security consultation at bluestarsecurityltd.com. That's bluestarsecurityltd.com.
Dan Proft here. Now is the best time to drive home in your next Mazda. During the season of Discovery Sales Event, you'll get the biggest savings on a new or pre-owned Mazda. And what you see is what you pay. With limited time sales going on right now, there's no better time to buy at Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. Lease a 2023 Mazda CX-30 for $249 a month, or a 2023 Mazda CX-5 for $399 a month, for 36 months with approved credit through Mazda Capital Services for qualified buyers. Just add license, title, tax, and the $324.24 dock fee. Plus, stop in today and ask about the all-new 2024 Mazda CX-90. And to keep your Mazda running great all year round, schedule your next service appointment online at WilkinsMazdaCars.com. That's WilkinsMazdaCars.com. Wilkins Mazda is conveniently located in Elmhurst off York Road and 290, just minutes from Oak Brook, downtown, and Schaumburg. Experience the next level of excellence at Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. Visit WilkinsMazdaCars.com and see dealer for details.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at CrosscomInc.com. That's CrosscomInc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
You can shed that fat, be slimmer for the rest of the summer into the fall. No more wearing cover-ups or T-shirts in the pool. NJ Diet will help you the natural way. No shots, no hormones, no surgery. You lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40-plus pounds in only 40 days with NJ Diet. They use your hair, saliva, and blood work, along with bioenergetic scans to personalize natural solutions and supplements that get your body into the fat-burning zone so you can finally lose the weight. Then, NJ Diet uses DNA info to help you keep it off. Best of all, it's contractually guaranteed. You're fully supervised the entire time to make sure you're burning fat, not just losing water. And you even get Dr. T's personal email and phone number if you have questions. Dr. T is Dr. Turovets, the founder of NJ Diet. NJ Diet has locations close by in Skokie and Oak Brook, or is available from home with live online video consultations. Call 855-5NJ-DIET or schedule your consult today at njdiet.com. That's njdiet.com.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I just had retired from a union carpenter, so my body was a little wore out. My shoulders were hurting. Like, I eat potatoes and stuff, but I wasn't getting all the vegetables right, so I started thinking about that. And because there's no compounds, it's just all natural. It's not like vitamins you buy at the store where you read the ingredients and there's like all different things. I don't even know how to pronounce the names that are in these vitamins. But this Balance of Nature is just all natural stuff, no artificial things. So I thought, I'll give that a try. You know, the stuff works. So now you guys made it easy for me to stay healthy.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, we're talking about the rule of law, particularly as it pertains to Loudoun County Father Scott Smith, who just recently was pardoned by Governor Youngkin.
Yeah, Sunday night.
Tina and Joliet, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning. So a huge part of the problem, and I encounter this all the time, are people on our side that think, yes, we acknowledge these things are happening, but they're not happening here. We're okay here. That's only in California. That's only in New York. They have blinders on, and they refuse to acknowledge that the same garbage that we see happening in Loudoun County and in school districts all over California, it's absolutely going on in Illinois. Homer Glen is a perfect example of that. Had the parents not caught wind of a new hire who had significant mental illness and other issues going on, that person would have been hired to teach kindergarten through third grade. He was clearly not fit to be around children. It is happening here. Our public libraries and CPS, there are librarians all over Twitter posting their allegiance to Antifa. We're funding it. We are funding all of this. It's maddening, and it's more maddening that our people that we need to help fight this battle are in complete denial. It is right in front of their faces.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some of that. Thanks for the call, Tina. I mean, there's no question there's some of that. I think maybe it's a coping mechanism. I don't want to know how bad it is. I've shared the story before, and it's not that old. It's, I don't know, a few weeks ago. I told my friend who's got kids in Lincoln Way, we were talking about some of these incidents like in Northern Virginia, like all over the place, including many in Illinois. He's like, well, it's not happening in Lincoln Way. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
You just don't know. I said, go into that school, walk around, and come back and tell me what you see. And I said, no, I don't want to. Because he knows. He doesn't want to have to confront it. He's just trying to get his kids through school and to be done with it and on. And I understand that too, but there is a certain willful blindness. It's a coping mechanism. The state is a catastrophe. The schools are a catastrophe, but a lot of them have reputations that are reflective of a bygone era when maybe the parents went to school, and the schools look nothing like that bygone era these days. They operate nothing like they did when we were growing up, of a certain age. But they don't want to confront it. But I think that's, and some parents are too. There's activists. You mentioned the Homer Township parents. That's a good example. People that are paying attention and on the lookout to warn others. But yeah, no, I mean, the onslaught is real. And I mean, for anybody, you have a conversation with anybody, you think we have the rule of law in Chicagoland? You think we have equal justice before the law? I mean, the examples across every topic, not just related to the administration of schools, but the migrant situation, sanctuary city, the political ruling class. It takes 5 minutes. They want Trump on trial in 5 minutes. Ed Burke was indicted 4 years ago. I mean, come on. And a case of shaking down a Burger King. It's not exactly a complicated classified documents case that has presidential privilege implications. Shaking down a Burger King, and they can't get a jerkwater alderman to trial in 4 years. So, I mean, anybody who thinks that, oh, it's not happening here in terms of justice meted out based on your political persuasion is just being willfully blind, and I assume it's a coping mechanism. Or they're a stone-ass idiot, one of the two.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll continue our discussion on the rule of law, and we'll level it up to the presidential level with Andy McCarthy at 6:36.
But now let's get news from here at home and around the world. The one and only Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
Amy and Dan, 57, and clearing skies right now, although some fog creeping in the far western suburbs. North Korea's Kim Jong-un rolled into Russia on an armored train today. He'll pull up to a meeting with President Vladimir Putin. The meeting a chance for the North Korean leader to get around crippling UN sanctions and years of diplomatic isolation. For Putin, it's an opportunity to refill ammunition storehouses that his war on Ukraine has drained. The Biden administration is taking steps to carry out a prisoner exchange with Iran to free 5 Americans being held there. Fox's Jared Halpern has more from the White House on their controversial moves.
5 Americans who the administration says are unjustly detained in Iran would be released as part of a prisoner swap, freeing 5 Iranians in U.S. custody. In addition, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has signed off on waiving sanctions to allow $6 billion in frozen Iranian funds to be transferred from South Korea to Qatar without financial institutions facing U.S. penalties. That money, the administration says, can only be used for humanitarian goods and will be closely monitored. Still, the agreement is raising objections from Republicans who argue now is not the time to make concessions to Iran, as Tehran and its proxies pose threats to U.S. troops. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Authorities in Pennsylvania warning that an escaped murderer who has evaded capture in southeast Pennsylvania for nearly 2 weeks is now armed. At least one nearby school district announced early today it would close all schools and offices for the day. Another only plans to allow students to come indoors. Libya's eastern city of Derna has buried 700 killed in a devastating round of flooding. 10,000 are reported missing. Well, the Jets should learn more later today about quarterback Aaron Rodgers' injury. It happened during the opening drive of last night's game against the Bills. The Jets this morning fear Rodgers has tore his Achilles tendon, which would put him out for the season. X-rays do show there was no break in his ankle. 5 firefighters were injured after a fire truck crashed into a Chicago home in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood. Truck crashing near 77th and Damon around 10 p.m. last night. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote later this week on a $25 million settlement in a Chicago police misconduct case. Case involves 2 men wrongfully convicted of murdering a college basketball standout 3 decades ago. A body pulled from Lake Michigan over the weekend being identified as a man who went missing last week after jumping off a boat. The Cook County ME's office revealing Brian Jackson was found unresponsive in the 5400 block of South DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Jackson disappeared after jumping into the lake about a mile offshore last week. A new study from the travel website Wanderoo gives Chicago 2 of the most Instagram famous streets in the country. According to the report, Michigan Avenue garnered number 8 on the list, appearing in over 350,000 Instagram postings. DuSable Lakeshore Drive was ranked number 18. Top spot apparently went to Ocean Drive in Miami. Yan Gomes knocked in 2 go-ahead runs in the ninth. Cubs topped the Rockies 5-4 in Denver. Yesterday's series opener between the Sox and Royals rained out. Doubleheader today. Load management could be a thing of the past in the NBA. NBA expected to pass more stringent rules and punishments to limit the resting of players for nationally televised individual regular season games. The news, a service of Townstone Financial. Townstone can help you purchase a home faster and almost as easy as typing TOWNSTONE.com or by calling 312-896-2110. Illinois Mortgage Licensee 6629, NMLS number 136639. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Is confident about Trump.
4 indictment Trump championship, which is pretty much making fun of these fake indictments. Trump is going to win the championship on those. The gut feeling that I have based on the totality of circumstances is that Trump probably didn't do none of this stuff. It's all a witch hunt. They thought it would hurt his chances, and it just made him bigger and powerful. Then he's turned into the Incredible Hulk now.
The Officer Tatum Show. Weeknights at 7, right before Jay Sekulow at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey there, Charlie Kirk here. You've probably been hearing my colleagues and I talking about investing with Why Refi for a while now. You may have some questions, so let's review. It's true. You can earn up to 10.25% fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed. You could turn your income on or off, compound it whatever you choose, and there are absolutely no fees. There's no attack on principal if you ever need your money back, and you'll get your monthly statement with no surprises. Just go to investrefy.com. That's invest the letter Y and then refy.com, or call 888-YREFY24. Folks, this is a solid investment that actually helps people. Just go to investrefy.com or call 888-YREFY24 and tell them that Charlie Kirk sent you. So call 888-YREFY24. Solid investment. It really helps people. Call 888-YREFY24 and tell them that Charlie Kirk sent you.
Imagine you're on the couch in your living room and one of your kids or grandkids excitedly pulls on your arm, urging you to come play. But instead of feeling exhausted, you practically jump off the couch. To make sure you're keeping up with them, it's crucial to fuel your body with whole fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, most people don't get enough of these nutritious foods. That's where Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies can help. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies provides your body with the additional nutrition it needs, helping you to embrace all of life's greatest moments with energy. Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Exergen thermometers are the #1 choice of medical professionals at top-ranked hospitals. Accuracy matters. Available at Walmart and Walgreens. Learn more at Exergen.com.
It is 6:37. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Irish Spring. Just the reset you need to own the day. Irish Spring. When the spring hits you, you're ready. Pick up Irish Spring at your local retailer today. Inbound Edens, already brake lights inbound between Cicero and Montrose, 21 in Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy inbound, O'Hare to the Burn Circle interchange, a solid 55 minutes now. The Icon, the inbound side, right now at 50 minutes, 390 to the old post office. Stevenson, 49 minutes, 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan outbound jammed up because of an earlier accident between Taylor and 18th. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Clouds will give way to some sunshine. High of 69. Partly cloudy, a brief shower or two overnight, low 55. Cloudy with showers tomorrow. High 66. 57 right now. Next news coming up at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. A lot going on the legal beat as it pertains to Trump. Some as it pertains to Biden Incorporated, too. Let's start with Trump. Jonathan Turley called it the Why Not Report. The release of the special grand jury final report in Georgia that indicated that jurors recommended 39 people for prosecution, including current Republican Senator Lindsey Graham and former Republican Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue.
Yeah. Lindsey Graham, really, that just shows how stupid this whole process is and how this whole case is.
Here's what Lindsey Graham had to say about making the list.
As a sitting United States Senator, Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, I eventually certified the election in all states, including Georgia. I didn't find any evidence of mass voter fraud, but I did have concerns about the mail-in ballot systems in Georgia and other places. This is troubling for the country. We can't criminalize senators doing their job when they have a constitutional requirement to fulfill. It would be irresponsible for me, in my opinion, as chairman of the committee, not to try to find out what happened. It would be irresponsible for me to tell the voters of South Carolina what I did without actually trying to find out what the right answer was. So we're opening up Pandora's box here. Loudoun County is one of the most liberal jurisdictions in the country. I fear this will spread, that the next election, Democrats may be on the other side of this. So at the end of the day, nothing happened. What I did was consistent with my job as being a United States Senator, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, but it was just not me. 3 United States senators. We're opening up Pandora's box. I think the system in this country is getting off the rails, and we have to be careful not to use the legal system as a political tool.
Yeah, sounds like something Scott Smith just said after getting pardoned by Glenn Youngkin, because it's not limited to senators anymore. It's your politics up and down the food chain. This is why Jonathan Turley calls it the "why not" report. Remember the 4 human on that jury?
Oh,
Emily
yeah.
Kors, the witch, who is
She put that on her Facebook page, folks.
giggling. There may be some names on that list you wouldn't expect. He.
Oh, and that's probably one of the names. Yep.
Jonathan Turley, Professor Turley, writing, the why not philosophy is all part of our impulse by politics. There is little thought to the implications of actions beyond immediate vengeance and satisfaction. It's a criminal political system based on the giddy philosophy of Emily Kors. Well, as I said, with respect to Scott Smith, that is not a justice system that is emblematic of a free society. For more on all these legal matters, pleased to be joined again by Andy McCarthy, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Manhattan, contributing editor for National Review, author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Rig an Election and Destroy a Presidency. Andy, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Morning. Great to be with you.
What about what Lindsey Graham had to say in reaction to being named in this report?
Well, I've been saying since the indictment came out that I don't think it states a crime. And having now, had more time to look at it and also read an opinion, which I thought was kind of whacked out by by the federal judge who denied Mark Meadows what I thought was entirely meritorious motion to get the case moved to federal court. I'm not only convinced that there's not a crime here. I think the question, which is the question John Turley raises, but I would raise it a different way, and that is, why stop with Graham and the other 2 senators? The way I read this, it looks to me like the crime, if there is one, is challenging an election won by a Democrat. And it seems to me that, the way her theory works in this case, she doesn't have a crime that she can unify a conspiracy around that everybody agreed to. So she tried to throw this RICO thing up. I did RICO cases in New York for many, many years. This is not a RICO case. And what it seems to boil down to is there's no line where you can draw it and say, this is where you cut off who you charge, because there's no real crime. So, there's not a bright line where you can say, oh, okay, here we prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these people agreed to be in some kind of a criminal enterprise. So, 39 people the grand jury recommended, that, fine. But it could have been 39 million the way I read the indictment, because I just don't see, anybody who was on board with the idea that Trump had the constitutional right to challenge the outcome of the election is on the wrong side of this. And the way Fani Willis's theory of RICO works, virtually anybody could be charged.
Well, they just didn't have time. They want to get through these cases before November. So, I mean, I'm sure they would be open to charging everybody who voted for Trump or who had a question about the administration of the elections in 2020. But we just don't have the time, Andy. So we're going to just stick with the 19 to sort of put a marker down. Maybe we can come back for more later.
Well, it's a good question, Dan, because I don't, how she divides the 19 they charged versus the, however many others
20 they didn't. Yeah.
The investigative grand jury didn't. And, the interesting thing is, and I think, you can't expect people to know how, like the inside baseball of how this all works, because it's kind of wonky lawyer stuff. But there's no judge in the grand jury, right? We all know there's no defense lawyers in the grand jury. The grand jury's legal advisor is the prosecutor.
Right.
And when you read the indictment that she returned and you see that there's no principle or finite dividing line that says here's what the crime is and here's how we separate out people who are complicit in it and people who aren't, that doesn't exist. You really do end up saying, why just 39? Why limit it to that? Because it really does seem she's taking the position that anybody who did anything lawful to challenge this election, whether it's petitioning government by appealing to legislatures, petitioning government by appealing to election officials, filing lawsuits, this was an election won by a Democrat. If you challenged it, then you're on the wrong side of her RICO. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to.
What is your opinion about the effort by President Trump, former President Trump, to get Tanya Chutkin, the judge in his trial on charges related to Jan 6th, to have her recuse herself because of previous statements she made that seemed to indicate that she believes Trump was responsible for the January 6th rioting?
Well, I think that Judge Chutkin on her own should have gotten out of this case. She's not going to do that. I'd be very surprised if the court removes her. It seems to me that it's patently obvious that Trump's due process rights are being violated. There's no way. I mean, what happened here is they have dumped a case that has in the initial tranche, this isn't the totality of it, but in the first wave, there's $12.5 million documents of discovery that the defense has to go through. This idea that, well, don't worry about it, Jack Smith, the prosecutor, gave them a binder with all the important stuff in it. It's ridiculous. It's the defense gets to decide what's important to the defense. But it's not just a question of dumping that kind of a ridiculous amount of discovery on him and giving him a ridiculous March 4th trial date under circumstances where, the government had 31 months to investigate this, and they're trying to push this guy to trial in basically 6 months. But the very same prosecutor who brought the case, before bringing it, first indicted him in another jurisdiction 1,000 miles away and pushed the judge into an early trial date. And once he got that locked in so that he's now like full-time having to get prepared for this other case, which presents very complicated classified information issues. And anybody who's ever litigated those knows how difficult they are to get through, because all of the admissibility questions in a classified documents case have to be litigated pre-trial. After he had that locked in and pushed her into what I thought was, I still think is a very ambitious, if not unreasonable, May trial date. Only then does he then go to Washington, indict him in another case, and then tell the judge, we got to get to trial fast, after he's already locked him in the other trial. I don't know when he thinks this isn't one trial, it's two, and that's as if Trump didn't have everything else that he's got on his dance card. And to then say to people that the government and the public have a right to a speedy trial, when the Constitution gives the right to a speedy trial to the defendant, and what the court's job is not to do speedy justice, but the due administration of justice, which means if it's a complicated case that you need a reasonable amount of time to get prepared for trial, you give the guy a reasonable amount of time to get prepared for trial. It's just ridiculous.
Well, somebody
I would be making the record that she has imposed a ridiculous deadline, objectively speaking, on a trial of this kind.
Andrew McCarthy, let's move over to Hunter Biden because he's had a lot of time to prepare for anything, and now he's facing this indictment for the felony gun charge. But didn't the special prosecutor try to make that charge disappear just about 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, well, not only that, Amy, why are we still talking about preparing for it?
Yeah.
Or planning for it? I mean, this is the easiest trial of all time. It's 5 years old. The evidence is well known. The only interesting fact, I think, in the case is I think there are two guns. I don't think it's one gun.
Oh, really?
The documentation that if you look at this, the documentation that he lied on purchase was for. If you look at the picture in the New York Post and in other places where this has been reported, where he's waving the gun around a couple of days after or a few days after the false statement, that's not a revolver. It looks like a Glock. So I think the interesting thing here is whether you're dealing with multiple guns, but like whether he's guilty or not guilty, it's it's an open and shut case. The guy wrote a book about how he was, a chronic cocaine user at the time. So out of his own mouth, he's guilty. It would take about 10, maybe 15 minutes to present this to the grand jury. It's about a one-paragraph indictment. So why are we still talking about, I think within 3 weeks we might be able to get after 5 years? Are you kidding? I mean, why make a report to the court about what you're going to do? Why not just make a left turn down the hall, go down to the grand jury, spend 15 minutes and indict the case?
Well, why do you think that is? Might it have something to do with wanting to present this as some sort of momentous event, and this is build up, and now justice has been done, and no one is above the law? Look at what we did to baby boy Hunter.
No, I don't think so. I think this guy Weiss says whatever he thinks he needs to say to get out of the room that day. He did that with the agents. He told them, he really wished he could have brought the tax evasion charges, but the bad Biden-appointed U.S. attorney in Los Angeles and Washington wouldn't let him do it. And in the meantime, anybody who knows how the Justice Department works knows that one U.S. attorney can't block another U.S. attorney from bringing charges. When you have that kind of turf battle, you go to the Attorney General in Washington, and the Attorney General decides.
But how does publicly previewing that get him out of the room? It doesn't get him out of the room. It generates news coverage over the next 3 weeks.
Dan, it got him. They didn't want anyone to know this. It got him out of the room when he was meeting with the IRS agents and the other investigators who wanted to know how come we're not indicting the case.
Well, right.
So we told him a cock and bull story about how he was being blocked by other U.S. attorneys. He wasn't being blocked by other U.S. attorneys. His job is to disappear the case. The Justice Department doesn't want to bring the case. He doesn't want to tell the agents that, so he said what he thought he needed to say to get out of the room. Last week, he didn't want to tell us that he might indict this case. His feet were put to the fire because the judge told him, you have to report to me by September 6th about what you're going to do. So he said what he thought he needed to say to get the judge off his back so he could get out of the room. But who knows if he's actually going to indict this? Just because he said so?
Yeah, but
I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, okay, fair point. But this makes sense to use the gun charge as a justice was done moment, no one is above the law moment. I mean, now that you're publicly committed to it, you really start to dig your hole deeper if you don't follow through.
He's not publicly committed to it. There's nothing enforceable about what he said.
Well,
the Biden Justice Department doesn't want to bring. If they bring this case, Biden's defense is to say that the federal gun laws are unconstitutional. Do you think that the Biden Justice Department wants the president's son making that claim, given what the rhetoric of this administration is? I mean, they don't want to bring this case.
I disagree. I mean, I just the politics. I'm not on the law, but on the politics of this. The politics of this now is you essentially go to Hunter and you say, look, we tried, and now there's too much heat. You're going to have to take a bigger helping than we originally wanted, a bigger helping of the castor oil than we initially wanted to feed you, you're going to get prosecuted on this gun case. You're going to get a year and a day. You're going to serve 4 months. You're just going to have to do this. You're going to have to fall on the sword because they're getting too close to the big guy. That to me it seems a much more plausible political play than just trying to continue to stonewall this and say things that you don't follow up on. You got to get rid of this, and this is the way to get rid of it.
He could have gotten rid of it then. 10 minutes in the grand jury.
Well, I know, I agree, but I think this is, build up to then trying to your point about this being an everyday occurrence that any assistant state's attorney in any jurisdiction in the country would dispense of it, like you say, in 10 minutes. But this creates fanfare around it. This is a big deal. It's the president's son, and then they get to do the. What is all this talk about weaponizing our justice system against people based on their politics? Look, poor Hunter is going to prison for 5 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, I don't think the story's not going to go away, and it actually makes it worse if they think they're going to make it go away on a gun charge that they tried to make disappear 7 weeks ago. I mean,
what's your take?
It's laughable.
What's your take on the law and politics associated with the foreshadowing of a impeachment inquiry that Kevin McCarthy has all but said will come? Maybe it may require a full House vote, but it's coming.
I think it's probably coming, although if I'm McCarthy, it would be bad to lose the vote, and he's only got 4 votes, and I know he's got a lot of jittery people in this conference. And I really think Comer's doing such a great job. To me, the politics of it is let Comer do what he's doing, and don't go down the impeachment road until you're sure you have the votes, because I think the worst thing for them to do would be to have a vote on an impeachment inquiry and lose. And that's what I'm concerned about, because why do that? Comer's doing a great job, and the only difference would be you'd be calling it an impeachment inquiry, but he'd be doing the same thing he's doing anyway. So why don't you let him just keep digging until you're sure you have the votes, then do it.
One other matter, quickly before I let you go, the importance of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision in Missouri v. Biden as it pertains to, our First Amendment rights.
It's critical. I think the other piece of this, it's good that the court is engaged the way it is and shining a light on this. But what I think has to happen is you have to get a good Justice Department under a strong Attorney General who is willing to use the civil rights laws against government officials who violate the fundamental rights of Americans. It's fine to have the court do this. It's great to have the court do this. I'm delighted to see it. But, we can't have a situation where the Democrats are weaponizing the justice system, and at the same time, the Democrats are violating the Constitution rampantly. You got the gun thing in New Mexico. You have any number of other things that went on throughout COVID. You have this crazy law in California now where they're going to, take parental rights away if you don't affirm the gender choice of, I think you have to have a Justice Department that uses the civil rights laws for what they're intended for, which is to go after government officials who are violating people's constitutional rights.
Andy McCarthy, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of Manhattan, contributing editor, National Review, and author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plots to Rig an Election and Destroy a Presidency. Andy, thank you as always.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll continue our talk about justice in America and the justice that 9/11 families haven't gotten 22 years after the fact. 707.
And it could be Biden's biggest lie ever. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
2 ex-DCFS employees involved in the A.J. Friend case on trial. Chicago aldermen are set to vote on a $25 million police misconduct settlement. White Sox rained out, and Cubs rally late to beat the Rockies. WIND's Chicago News Time is 7 o'clock.
He's even more dangerous now. I'm Dave Anthony. Fox News. An escaped prisoner in Pennsylvania has a gun and ammo. Danilo Cavalcante stole it from a house last night in East Nanmeal.
The homeowner fired at him 7 times, but he still managed to get out with a stolen rifle.
That's Fox's Brooke Singman.
Police, including SWAT officers, have now flooded the surrounding areas to track down the dangerous killer. It's been reported that a green hoodie and a pair of prison shoes belonging to Cavalcante have been found nearby.
Now, he escaped nearly 2 weeks ago, days after getting a life sentence for murdering an ex-girlfriend. North Korea's leader has arrived in Russia to meet with President Vladimir Putin and may be ready to provide Russia with weapons and ammo to use in its war in Ukraine.
Accompanied by top military and arms industry officials during this trip. It's a rare trip out of the country. The last time he was in Russia was in 2019. And Kim Jong-un's country is in desperate need of food and energy assistance. He's also been attempting to acquire nuclear ballistic submarine technology. It is unclear what Russia is willing to give up in a possible deal.
Fox's Alexandria Hoff. The U.S. is taking another step to free 5 Americans detained in Iran. Fox's Mark Meredith is at the White House.
Monday, we learned waivers were issued that would unfreeze some Iranian financial assets that were being held in South Korea. They'll be allowed to go to a third party. Also in exchange, we know that 5 Iranians being held by the U.S., that they'll be able to be released as well.
Yeah, the Biden administration says that money would only be used by Iran for humanitarian purposes. If you Google, you'll see this story. The company's going on trial today.
The government's challenge against Google is the first major monopoly case to make it to trial in the U.S. since the internet became widely available. The Justice Department's looking to prove Google abused its power and unfairly shut out rivals to dominate the search engine business, something Google denies.
This Fox's Lillian Wu. America's listening to Fox News. Mostly cloudy this morning, 57 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. 5 firefighters were hurt after a fire truck crashes into a home in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood last night. Trial underway for 2 former DCFS employees who were involved in the A.J. Friend case. Carlos Acosta and his former supervisor, Andrew Polovin, each face charges of endangering the life of a child and reckless conduct. Police officer Kimberly Shipbaugh had been to the home after an injury to the young child.
I told him there's no way that we could release these boys to her not knowing how this injury occurred.
Both former DCF workers were involved in a 2018 investigation into allegations that 5-year-old AJ had been abused. Acosta deemed the abuse accusation unfounded. The pair were later fired from DCFS following AJ's death in April of 2019. A man shot in the leg near the newly opened Bally's temporary casino in the city's River North neighborhood. The shooting happened around 2:47 a.m. Monday in the 600 block of North State. Again, that man is in good condition. School District 203 in Naperville, students grades 8 through 12 will now have full access to GPT on all district devices. It's an artificial intelligence technology feared by educators for its potential to enable cheating. It's gained widespread acceptance now at schools and universities. Columbia College recently had an incident where a student was caught using ChatGPT during a quiz. Other districts and other states have banned AI on school devices. Yan Gomes knocked in 2 go-ahead in the 9th inning. Cubs topped the Rockies 5-4 in Denver. Drew Smyly earned the win in relief. Yesterday's series opener between the White Sox and Royals wiped out because of rain. The game will be made up as part of a straight doubleheader today. Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers goes down, likely a season-ending ruptured Achilles, but we're still awaiting on MRI results. And the Jets beat the Bills in OT, 22-16. The news, a service of the Pride Stores with 17 locations throughout Chicagoland that include Taco Urbano or Urban Counter restaurants. Stop by their new location, the Pride of Kane County, in St. Charles, Kirk and Maine. The Pride Stores, not your typical convenience store. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk sees shady business going on.
And so they have this coalition called the BRICS, a bloc of 5 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. One of the things they're talking about
in South Africa is the desire to strengthen their currencies and undermine the U.S. dollar, which would make us poor immediately. Poorer and poor immediately.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having nationwide access with an annual deductible of only $226. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor, C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com, is someone I know and trust. He's a 28-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password, for you to become a victim. LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm telling you, I'll be 74 in May, and I can't tell you how good I feel. I'm telling you, have my sister on it and her husband and so many different people.
It's just what the advertisements say, which is you get more energy. It really is a balance that the body needs, because if you just take regular people's diet, there's no way that they get the amount of servings of vegetables and fruits that they need. And so what this does, it assures that you are getting that. It really is. It's a beautiful name, Balance of Nature. And I tell everybody about it. When you got other people recommending it, it's a big thing.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and we'll start on the Edens, 34 minutes, Lake Cook Road to the junction, Kennedy inbound. It's an hour, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike at 51, 390 to the old post office. Stevenson, 21 in as you're traveling from the Tri-State into Lakeshore Drive. Actually, 37 now. They've updated that travel time into Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan right now, 31 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Jane Addams, eastbound stop-and-go traffic between Meacham and Route 53. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies early, then some sun later on, high 69. Partly cloudy, brief shower or two tonight, low 55. Clouds, a bit of rain tomorrow, the high 66. Sunshine, terrific day on Thursday, the high at 73. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
57 at O'Hare, next news 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by HealthQuest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Of course, yesterday was 9/11. John Cass and I spent some time talking about it, telling the story of Pilot George, a TWA pilot. Story I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, I'd never heard that before. I saw your tweet and then I read about it. So thank you, Dan.
Fascinating story. In addition to that, we had President Biden, the big guy, Mr. 10%, mark the occasion. He got up from his nap in Hanoi.
Got to go to bed.
And made it back for 9/11. And he recalled 9/11, 2001, and where he was on that day and the day after.
To renew our sacred vow, never forget, never forget. We never forget. Each of us, each of those precious lives stolen too soon when evil attacked. Ground Zero in New York, and I remember standing there the next day and looking at the building. I felt like I was looking through the gates of hell. It looked so devastating because from where you could stand.
Wow.
His biggest lie
chilling.
ever. Biggest lie ever. 312-642-5600. Turnkey.pro answer line 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment. Because where was he the day after 9/11, Dan?
He was in D.C.
Yeah, he was at the Capitol. They were taking a vote.
Never forget. Although I forget where I was. Okay.
And normally his gaffes and his missteps are funny, but this is just a slap in the face for the victims' family members, I think, that he just has to insert himself into every single thing to, try to elevate his importance in life. You weren't there, it doesn't matter. And he's also the first president not to remember 9/11 at any of the sites where Americans were killed. He was in Alaska. Does anybody know why he was in Alaska? Checking out the border situation.
I think he's doing a cruise up the Inside Passage, and he had a dog sledding excursion.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
And he was on top of glaciers, right? Make up more lies.
Checking out Anwar, make sure nobody's drilling. The interesting thing, the op-eds from 9/11 families. There's a consistent theme in these op-eds. There were several of them, which is 22 years, and we still can't get answers from our government. The betrayal, this is Terry K. Rockefeller, a founding member of September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows, the only 9/11 family organization with an NGO status, so they can observe the 9/11 Military Commission at Gitmo. The betrayal began with the Bush administration's 2003 decision to take men accused of planning and supporting the attacks to CIA black sites where they were tortured. Then the administration compounded its shameful decision by sending the accused to the Gitmo Naval Base, attempting to conduct a trial in an inadequate military justice system rather than federal court. Obama made a half-hearted attempt in 2009 to move the 9/11 case to federal court in New York. State and city politicians opposed this, so the case went back to Gitmo. In 2018, 6 years after the 5 accused were arraigned for a second time, that's Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the 4 accused in planning. 2018, 6 years after the 5 accused were arraigned for a second time, no trial begun. Military official with authority to do so began negotiating plea agreements, but then Donald Trump's defense secretary fired him. We were back to pretrial hearings. By March of last year, the complete failure of the 9/11 Military Commission became so apparent, the prosecution began plea agreement negotiations with the defense. That was something that was opposed by a lot of 9/11 families. Why? Because this is a way for the government to hide what it doesn't want to disclose. After doing nothing for 17 months, the Biden administration rejected proposals concerning the defendant's future terms of confinement. So we don't see a resolution of this case anytime soon. The 9/11 family community is large and diverse. Understandably, we hold a range of opinions about trials, the death penalty, and plea agreements, but we all want more complete information about how the attacks were planned and supported. Rockefeller goes on, Terry K. Rockefeller, the author of this piece. I'm not a party to any of the Saudi lawsuits, but I believe we deserve the facts concerning Saudi support for Al Qaeda in general or specific involvement in the 9/11 attacks, whether by individual Saudi citizens, Saudi organizations, or members of the Saudi government. The author goes on to say this system, military justice system, it's not a system designed to reveal facts the government wants to protect. No former CIA detainee has been convicted in a trial before the military commissions. 22 years without answers, without justice, without accountability. That is, too, a stain on the moral fiber of America. She's referring to characterization by a judge about the torture of suspects, enemy combatants, alleged enemy combatants, as a stain on our moral fiber. Yeah. The 22 years without answers, without justice, without accountability, that, too, is a stain on the moral fiber of America. Brett Eagleson has an op-ed over at The Hill. He lost his father, Bruce, on 9/11. We have reached the 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, a day we said collectively as a nation that we would never forget. Yet, while we face memories from that harrowing day that left a permanent scar on thousands of families, the very soul of our nation as well, the government considered a plea agreement for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the 4 other 9/11 plotters detained at Gitmo. For 22 years, 9/11 families, survivors, and first responders have been fighting for truth, accountability, and closure. We're fighting for justice through litigation against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for its role in the murderous attacks that led to the deaths of my father and thousands of others. To this day, our government still fights us. Our government still fights us. The plea agreement, just like Rockefeller, these agreements would have eliminated public trials of the 5 defendants, meaning that key information the government provided to the plotters' legal teams would have remained hidden from the public. He writes, Eagleson does, this bears repeating. The United States government has provided documents and evidence to the terrorists and their lawyers that are the same documents and evidence the United States government has denied 9/11 families. Last month, more than 2,000 9/11 families, survivors, first responders signed a letter to Biden opposing the plea agreements for the 5 9/11 plotters. We want the release of evidence and the prioritization of the interests of victims of the 9/11 attacks. We want transparency, justice, and closure, not distractions or cover-ups. Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, and still the lament. And through those administrations, Republican and Democrat, the lament has remained the same. They can't get answers from their government. We can't get answers from our government because it's not just them. It's just not the 9/11 families. We all, I think, would want a full accounting for who was involved, what happened. And by the way, for all those who are, quick to poo-poo conspiracy theorists, well, one of the reasons there is so much mistrust that breeds conspiracy theories is because there's so much dishonesty and lack of disclosure from our government. Our government. You see this continuum we're on, and we've been on for a long time? Now it's manifesting itself in spectacular fashion with the forthcoming trials of a former president, but also in FBI memos, in local prosecutions like we talked about earlier. Scott Smith wanted to get answers about the rape of his daughter from his school district where the rape occurred.
And he gets arrested.
And then you memorialize, appropriately so, 9/11 yesterday. And they're at the World Trade Center. They're reading the names of all those who were murdered. And yet, against that backdrop, you have, oh, it's wonderful, and the politicians are all putting themselves center stage to show how much they care, so how committed they are to these families, and yet op-ed after op-ed from different families and different representing different 9/11 family organizations, and it's the same story. Yeah, never forget. It's just words to these politicians throughout the administrations. This is Republican, Democrat. Just not prioritizing these people and this information because it creates complications. So better to treat the American people like mushrooms than, upset whatever delicate balance and, perceived relationships we have with countries that, frankly, are enemies of the state.
Yeah,
Talking about the Saudis.
What do politicians think that these victim family members are just going to forget? I mean, they want more complete information about how the attacks were planned and supported. It's not a big ask.
They're not going to forget, but as long as everybody's in on it, nobody has to be held accountable.
I mean, remember when they tried to move the cases from Guantanamo to federal court and that didn't work?
When everybody's in on it, nobody has to be held accountable. Remember that. For all those people who are wooed by the siren song of bipartisan cooperation. When both sides agree to do something, then where do you go when they agree to do something that's averse to your interests? Where do you go? Hey, they're in agreement. They're working together to keep me in the dark. Working adverse to your interests. Now where do you go? This is why the justice system is supposed to be adversarial. This is why you want meaningful disagreement between the two parties and public debate. You don't want them agreeing behind closed doors on what they're going to do because they're going to do it to you. And if you don't think it could ever happen to me, 9/11 families, if they can treat them this shabbily, you don't think they can treat you or would have an inclination to treat you similarly if their interests ran into yours? Ralph and Rantoul.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. I was in the UK on 9/11. I can tell that story a different time because I recorded the reactions of those around me who didn't realize an American was in their midst. But the examples that you're bringing out, to me, they're yet another manifestation of the administrative state protecting its own interests, whatever they might be, and the rest of us are considered to be peasants, not respected, dealt with in whatever way they want. I'll give a short example. I recently re-entered the country after some international travel. And the blue mask wearing moron at Customs and Borders in O'Hare just simply barked out instructions to me like, you're traveling alone? I said, no, my wife's over there. Get her over here. That's what he said. Get her over here. And I said, and I asked him, I said, in direct opposition to the order that person right over there split us up when I said we're traveling together, and they sent her to the agent right behind you, turn around, there she is. And me, you mean that? So what do you want me to do? You want me to run over there and get her? Or, and he goes, oh, well, she's already with an agent. So I answered his ridiculous questions about travel, whatnot. And after that, shoved me my passport. Dan, when I used to travel as a U.S. passport carrying citizen of the United States, I always used to hear welcome home as the last thing when they shoved the passport back to me. Those days are gone, pal.
Thanks for the call, Ralph. Tell you what, another 9/11 story I had not heard until I read this piece from Alexander Riley, who's a sociology professor at Bucknell University, talking about Shanksville, where Flight 93 went down.
Yeah.
It's a larger piece, and it's not about this, but not directly. It's worth reading. Shanksville, USA is the piece by Alexander Riley over at AmericanMind.org. But this, I did not know. 22 years ago, the day after the crash in Shanksville, something of a small city of a few hundred people sprang into existence on the hillside overlooking the crater. The city was populated by a revolving team of search and recovery workers, police, agents of various government agencies, and media. Two citizens of this new city, Rick Lohr, the director of the Somerset County Emergency Management Agency, and Bill Baker, the 9/11 addressing specialist for the same agency, assembled what became known as the Straw Memorial. This was at the command center of the rescue mission. In their account, this began with something like a dozen bales of straw as a base to support flowers, flags, stuffed animals, candles, poster boards, and other items left by inhabitants of the temporary city on a hilltop. As the memorial items grew, so did the number of bales of straw. Within a few days of the crash, families of the passengers began to arrive in buses escorted by state troopers, leaving personal items at the Straw Memorial. A large flag was mounted at the site, as might well be expected. Then Pastor James Vandervoort of the Christian Missionary Alliance Church, along with a few of his congregants, took a wooden cross they had constructed and decorated with a white cloth up to the site to post. In Vandervoort's account of the event, there was a brief conflict as to whether it would be permitted. State police supported the erection of the cross, while FBI agents at the site initially balked on the grounds of religious diversity, telling Vandervoort that this Christian symbol might be read as exclusionary by visiting passenger family members who were not Christian. Are you kidding? 22 years ago, this was how the FBI was behaving. In that context. In short order, the foundational American religious sensibility won the day over a commitment to by-the-book secular public policy. The FBI agents relented and permitted the cross to be erected. It stood at the temporary memorial site for a decade until construction of the permanent memorial got underway. That was the instinct of the FBI at that place in that moment. Robert and Lyle.
Hey, am I on the air?
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, this is ridiculous because you're an attorney. Every law in this country at one time is based on the Ten Commandments and the morality of that Christ taught. This carried on for 150 years. And now all of a sudden we're having a big problem. In fact, George Washington's the one that prayed in the name of Jesus Christ in front of all the assemblies and everything else. So this is ridiculous. This is a Christian nation. I wanted to point out that it was the Saudis, all of them, every one of them that was involved in this 9/11 thing. They all got money from the Saudi princes. The president of the United States from the very beginning and the get-go should have held that country responsible, and they should have paid the bill for what they have done to our nation.
And yet, thanks for the call, Robert. And yet, there was more shade directed at MBS and the Saudi regime over the murder of Khashoggi, the journalist, quote-unquote journalist, than has been directed from the United States to Saudi for their role in 9/11, the Saudis for their role in 9/11. I'm not for murdering anybody. I don't want governments murdering anybody anywhere, so it's not a comment on Khashoggi, it's a comment on us. All the focus, MBS, and on that murder, and yet it painstaking to get documents declassified, despite the best efforts of 9/11 victims' families, on all of our behalves, to understand who the responsible parties were, what happened in the lead up to and on the day of 9/11/2001.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm telling you, I'll be 74 in May, and I can't tell you how good I feel. I'm telling you, have my sister on it and her husband and so many different people.
It's just what the advertisements say, which is you get more energy. It really is a balance that the body needs, because if you just take regular people's diet, there's no way that they get the amount of servings of vegetables and fruits that they need. And so what this does, it assures that you are getting that. It really is. It's a beautiful name, Balance of Nature. And I tell everybody about it. When you got other people recommending it, it's a big thing.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Chicago.
Are you considering a unique way to enhance your investment knowledge this year? Then sign up today for the all-inclusive Eagle Financial Publications Cruise. Along with our trusted partner, The Money Show, we're setting sail this December to explore some of the most beautiful and unspoiled destinations in the Caribbean. But this is no ordinary vacation. It's a chance to learn from top Eagle financial experts like best-selling authors George Gilder, Mark Skousen, and others who will be hosting a series of workshops and seminars throughout the trip. Imagine lounging on the sun deck while discussing investment strategies with like-minded individuals, or enjoying a gourmet dinner at the same table with one of our leading financial authorities. This once-in-a-lifetime cruise is a perfect way to combine education and relaxation to achieve your investment goals. This cruise will sell out quickly, so visit eaglefinancialcruise.com today to learn more and to secure your cabin. That's eaglefinancialcruise.com. Eagle Financial is a division of Salem Media Group. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
737, Mark Lennon, founder of wirepoints.org, joins us to talk about all things Illinois policy related, starting with that EV plant opening up in Manteno with hundreds of millions in tax incentives from the state that's run by a member of the Chinese Communist Party. 737.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
57 degrees at 7:32. Former President Donald Trump trying to have charges in Fulton County, Georgia thrown out. His attorney filed paperwork yesterday asking for dismissal of state charges. The Biden administration taking steps to carry out a prisoner exchange with Iran to free 5 Americans being held there. It has issued a waiver for foreign banks to issue $6 billion in Iranian oil funding that had been held up by U.S. sanctions. American scientist Mark Dickey is safe this morning after being rescued out of a cave in southern Turkey.
Mark Dickey was pulled out more than a week after he fell seriously in this cave. The 40-year-old New Yorker had started to throw up large quantities of blood. Teams from across Europe took part in the operation to bring the 40-year-old back from more than 3,000 feet underground.
It's been one hell of a crazy adventure, but I'm on the surface safely. I'm still alive.
That's Mark Dickey speaking from a stretcher before being loaded into the ambulance. He thanked rescue workers and the Turkish government for saving his life. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
Michigan State University suspending head football coach Mel Tucker without pay amid harassment allegations. MSU interim president Teresa Woodruff saying, although they knew of the investigation, they just learned details and have taken what she called swift action.
That investigative process is not complete and had not been referred to A.D. Haller or the university. That process will not be complete until there is a hearing and a final decision.
The allegations have been denied by Tucker. 5 firefighters injured after a Chicago fire truck crashed into a home in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood. Happened near 77th and Damon around 10 last night. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote this week on a $25 million settlement in a Chicago police misconduct case. Case involved 2 men wrongfully convicted of murdering a college basketball stand held about 3 decades ago. As more and more cases of Paycheck Protection Program fraud in Illinois get uncovered, some are wondering if it's the tip of the iceberg. In one case, nearly 40 Illinois state employees were accused of receiving PPP loans for businesses that did not exist. During a Senate hearing, Iowa U.S. Senator Joni Ernst says it's apparent fraud is rampant.
As the rush of pandemic aid went out the door, bad actors took advantage of the American taxpayers' generosity.
As an example, Ernst and others pointed to 50 applications for small business loans reportedly listed at the same address, a day shelter here in Chicago where workers and the homeless can pick up mail. Patrick Kelly with the SBA admitted loan applications were not checked out.
There were choices made to prioritize speed at all cost that, in my opinion, did not need to be made and are the outlier event that has caused the challenges that we all regret.
According to the SBA's Inspector General, $3.6 billion in loans were given to people on the Treasury's do not pay list. Cubs topped the Rockies 5-4 in Denver. White Sox and Royals rained out doubleheader today. The news, a service of the Pride stores, with 17 locations throughout Chicagoland that include Taco Urbano or Urban Counter restaurants. Stop by their newest location, the Pride of Kane County in St. Charles, Kirk and Maine. Pride stores, not your typical convenience store. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Gas prices are still too high, and AM 560 and the Pride stores want to help ease your pain at the pump. Every Thursday morning in September, we're giving away $50 gift cards from the Pride stores to the first 56 customers who pump at least 5 gallons of gas between 7 and 8 a.m. at a specially selected location. To find out where, listen to Chicago's Morning Answer at 6:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. Then show up, fill up, and you could win a $50 gift card courtesy of the Pride stores at AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille. As part of proving his bona fides on green energy, Governor Pritzker has been trying to attract electrical vehicle battery manufacturers to Illinois for a few years. It's not been easy. To help, in October 2021, Pritzker signed into law new tax credits for EV businesses, which Crain's Chicago Business said were massive incentives that may be the largest ever in the state's history. But 10 months later, Illinois was still 0 for 18 in attracting EV battery plants. Even Rivian, which assembles electric-powered trucks in downstate Normal, chose Georgia for its first battery plant. So earlier this year, Pritzker asked for even more incentives to get businesses here, including a deal-closing fund that he could use to sweeten the pot. That honeypot of tax incentives was finally enough to attract a $2 billion investment in an EV battery plant in Manteno. Too bad the owners are Chinese communists. Pritzker cut a deal to give Goshen Incorporated $536 million in tax incentives to bring one of their plants to Illinois. Intersect Illinois, a business public-private partnership group, their CEO, Dan Seals, said of the deal, "This is the biggest project I've seen in my years of economic development. It's a big deal for Illinois. It's also a big deal for the Chinese communists, no doubt. No business in China is truly private. The president of Goshen, Chen Li, is a member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, an important part of the Chinese Communist Party. And EV companies are an integral part of China's long-term One Road, One Belt strategic plan to control critical infrastructure and industries around the world. Being open to foreign investment doesn't mean we give massive tax breaks to our adversaries that steal our technology, help manufacture fentanyl, and released COVID-19. I'm Jeannie Ives. To learn more, listen to my radio show on Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
School has started. The nights are getting cooler. The sun is getting lower on the horizon every day. Winter is coming and coming fast. Keeping your business's doors and gates working properly to keep out the extreme weather is a major concern. Your business can't afford a loss of income or productivity. Think ahead before Old Man Winter arrives and call Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. for your commercial door maintenance and security tune-up now. You can't always plan when your doors break down, and it always seems to come at the least convenient time. Industrial Door Company will ensure your doors, grills, and gates are working to specification and give you advice on how to increase the life of your doors. See a range of products and services at industrialdoor.com and call anytime, 847-258-5620. Their team will be there before the extreme cold weather causes financial losses for your company. Since 1982, the Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. takes care of your doors so you can take care of business. Service and installation positions available now.
Exergen thermometers are clinically proven to be more accurate than non-contact thermometers. Exergen is fast and non-invasive. Available at Walmart and Walgreens. Learn more at Exergen.com.
7:40. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of My Pillow. The 6-pack bath towel sets are back in stock. Proprietary technology makes them absorbent, yet still provides that soft feel you look for in a towel. For a limited time, get 50% savings with promo code LIBERTY. DuSable Lakeshore Drive slowing up right now, especially on the northbound side between Foster and Hollywood. We're watching the Reagan begin to stack up eastbound on 88 between the Aurora toll to past Yackley with an overturned vehicle. 3 right lanes are blocked right now. I-57 and the Bishop Ford brake lights into the Ryan merge. The Ryan at 40 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. The Stevenson right now at 80 minutes, 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive with a medical emergency and emergency equipment blocking a center lane inbound at First Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Clouds will give way to some sunshine and a high of 69. 57 right now. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas Coffee, roasted fresh daily in Batavia, Illinois. Online at papanicholas.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. And we'll speak with Mark Lennon in just a moment. It turns out BLM Brandon and Ty Webb, that's the Chevy Chase character from Caddyshack, have a lot in common.
Oh, they do.
When Ty Webb was asked why he doesn't keep it, he was asked what he shot, and he said, I don't know. I don't keep score. And Judge Smales asked, well, then how do you measure yourself against other golfers? And Ty Webb said, by height. Well, that's the same approach that BLM Brandon takes when it comes to the quality of the schools over which he now lords. He was asked at an appearance at the Economic Club of Chicago. Oh, boy, a lot of deep thinkers. Must have been a robust conversation, I'm sure. He was asked the following question: as a former educator and longtime employee of the Chicago Teachers Union, what grade would you give the current system and why?
Oh, my gosh.
His answer: I personally don't give a lot of attention to grades. Yeah, it shows.
Well, yeah, he admitted that. Yeah.
My responsibility is not merely just to grade the system, but to fund the system. That's how I'm ultimately going to grade whether our public school system is working, based upon the investments we make to the people who rely on it. So much like judging somebody's golf game by their height, Brandon Johnson judges the quality of a school system by what you put into it, not what you get out of it. It's the same thing. Don't worry about the score. Worry about something unrelated to the score. Like the $30,000 a year that we put into it, that's characterized as underfunding. But that's where he's focused. For more on this, Mark Lennon, founder and executive editor of wirepoints.org. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Yeah. Don't we have to establish a rubric? Oh boy, big word. We have to establish a rubric that speaks to the needs as well as the unique dynamics that exist. Another sentence that means nothing, but it sounds like it means something. That's from BLM Brandon when he's talking about K through 12.
You know, actually, Dan, I just listened to another hour of it too. Ben Jaretsky had him on his show, and I spent a full hour with him. You know, it's an hour of platitudes like that. He just does not get to anything concrete. And yeah, he wants to measure schools by how much money we give them. And he says that to the Economic Club. He wasn't challenged on it.
Of course not. Why would all those business leaders challenge him? Isn't that how they judge their businesses? It's what we put into it, not what we get out of it, and the connection between the two. Isn't that how they run their businesses?
Yep, and you know, on Jaretsky's show too, he was asked again about grading for students, how you grade students. Of course, he dismissed that and said that the standardized testing is a manifestation of eugenics. You know, that's something he said during the campaign. So,
yeah,
you know, we're trying to kill black people if we give tests or something. You know, is the idea. But boy, I just listened to your segment too on the Goshen. The Goshen incentives for that 8,600 employee plant were given. It seems like we're trying to measure our economic progress there by how much we spend too. That's over $200,000 a job.
$500 million in tax incentives for this supposed $2 billion EV facility being stood up by a member of the Chinese Communist Party in Manteno. That's a lot to consume, that statement. Anyway.
Well, and you know what? That's just the start, because there are federal tax credits for those folks too under the federal so-called Inflation Reduction Act. I'm trying to quantify that, but this is just nuts. Yeah, for a Chinese company that has seen a lot of controversy in some other states, it's been accused of lying about the job creation and other things. You know, what are we doing? It's like we look every day for ways to new ways to commit suicide nationally and in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, but Mark Lennon, is there anything that the residents of Illinois can do to stop it, or is it a done deal?
I think that's a done deal.
Well, more to the point, is there somebody trying to stop it? I haven't heard. Who's trying to stop it?
Yeah, that's the start, Dan. We got to have somebody that's going to stand up on this. I haven't heard of anybody yet. You know, we just got the details on this. The legislature did give them this slush fund. You know, about half of that package comes out of the closing fund, as they call it. They just gave them a blank check to dish out this kind of money on things that the governor's office chooses to subsidize. So hopefully we're going to hear more about it and find out if there is a way to challenge it.
Are we getting any closer to details about where Brandon Johnson, maybe you shared it with the Economic Club, where the 10 cities are going to be stood up? I know there's been a report about that white elephant at 115th and Halstead in West Roseland, but where else?
Not to my knowledge. The last I heard, he was talking about putting some of them in each ward.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, he wants each alderman to come. Well, no, he's asked every alderman to come up with a 2-acre plot in their ward and submit that to him within the next 2 weeks.
Right.
But there's some wards that they don't have any, like Alderman Hopkins, his ward. I mean, he's landlocked.
Well, you'll have to raise 2 acres of businesses. You know, could just eminent domain them and get them out of the way to build a tent city. And do we know who's got the contract? Is Bill Daley going to be the running point on the contracting for those weatherized pods that they're going to set up in these refugee camps around town? Or what do we know about that? When does that RFP go out for that contract?
Boy, yeah, I mean, this is just a fiasco. That the phrase I used in the article I wrote about this is apocalypse now. You know, it's true nationally. It's true in New York. At least they're speaking up about it in New York. The mayor there says, you know, this will destroy the city. He was very clear, and that he doesn't see any solution to it. There's no end in sight. You know, all this money and all these camps, that's just for the only what is it? I think the number that have come on buses from Texas. It's a small number.
Like 1,600 or something.
1,600, yeah. Well, we got 5 or 7 million people coming in the last 22 months. So a couple 100,000 would be the Illinois' proportionate share eventually coming to the state. This is the tip of the iceberg that we're talking about, and the city is already spending $300 million. That's the last figure we got from Brandon for the coming year on just those bussed-in migrants.
Yeah,
but don't worry. I mean, Mark and Dan, I don't know if you heard, but Andre Vasquez, my really good friend, he is now he's got a new title, Immigration Refugee Rights Committee Chairman. He said that once the migrants leave, that we're going to use those spaces, those tents, for the homeless, or as he calls them, unhoused population. So that this isn't temporary. When they go up, then they're going to stay up.
Well, why would they leave? You mean when they get upgraded to better housing?
I guess so.
Why would they leave? We're a welcoming city.
We're paying for every meal. We're paying for the clothes on their back. We're paying for their bedding. We're paying for everything.
Well, that's what a welcoming city does. Also, this, Mark, I read this piece in Vox.com. That's a left-wing outlet. Why the school choice movement is finally scoring breakthrough wins in the Biden era. Iowa, Utah, Arkansas, Florida, Oklahoma, Ohio, Indiana. I did not see Illinois on the list. Any chance that the tax credit scholarship program gets revived in the veto session?
I haven't heard very good information on that. Speaker Welch, as you probably reported, has initially said he was not going to call the bill. The governor's office caved to the radical environmentalists on this, but the radical opponents to school choice on this.
Right.
But I haven't. I haven't heard what's next in Springfield.
I've got the best idea. Give one of those tax credit scholarships to Stacey Davis Gates' son, so she might appreciate the program more.
Oh, yeah.
She's making well for school choice, though, isn't she? She, that statement she issued outlined exactly why she sent her kids to a private school, and boy, it was like straight out of. Wire Points couldn't have written it better, I think.
Well, yeah, she likes the curriculum and extracurricular offerings at De La Salle better than her public school offerings. But I mean, the public school offerings are fine for everybody else. It's just not for her kid. No, we got it. Yeah, that's fine. Well, she's one of our betters.
Yeah,
no
but
problem.
then she's basically calling herself a racist and a fascist, because anybody who sent their kids to private school or religious school, that's what
it's not racist when she does it.
Oh,
it's racist when other people do it. Mark Lennon. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say on this one, there's a ray of hope, because it does seem like she was widely criticized, even by much of the left on this. So hopefully something will come out of it. We'll see.
Yeah, that requires. It's like the. Is there any way to stop the Mantino plant and the tax incentives? Was somebody trying? I mean, so is somebody trying to do something in Chicago? Is somebody trying to stand up to the Chicago Teachers Union or the public sector unions at the state level? Is there an opposition party? So, I mean, yeah, she's being roundly criticized because leftists are covering their asses, which is what they do, just, for public consumption. But then it just goes away, even with her idiotic statements, because is somebody trying to do something? I mean, other than, our show, your outlet. But I mean, in electoral politics, is anybody? That's where accountability really comes. Is anybody trying to do anything in electoral politics here?
Nope. Just take that, lay down and take it. I guess that's the standard reaction in Illinois.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Mark Lennon, founder and executive editor of WirePoints, wirepoints.org. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Amy, Dan.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, folks. Dennis Prager here. You've probably been hearing my colleagues and me talking about investing with YRefi for a while now. You may have some questions, so let's review. It's true. You can earn up to a 10.25% fixed rate of return that is not correlated to the stock market or the Fed. You can turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose, and there are absolutely no fees. There is no attack on principal if you ever need your money back, and you'll get your monthly statement with no surprises. Just go to investYrefi.com. That's invest, the letter Y, then refi, REFY.com. Or call 888-YREFI24. Folks, this is a solid investment that actually helps people. Just go to investYrefi.com or call 888-YREFI24 and tell them Dennis Prager sent you.
Dan Proft here. Now's the best time to drive home in your next Mazda. During the Season of Discovery sales event, you'll get the biggest savings on a new or pre-owned Mazda. And what you see is what you pay. With limited time sales going on right now, there's no better time to buy Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. Lease a 2023 Mazda CX-30 for $249 a month, or a 2023 Mazda CX-5 for $399 a month for 36 months with approved credit through Mazda Capital Services for qualified buyers. Just add license, title tax, and the $324.24 dock fee. Plus, stop in today and ask about the all-new 2024 Mazda CX-90. And to keep your Mazda running great all year round, schedule your next service appointment online at WilkinsMazdaCars.com. That's Wilkins, W-I-L-K-I-N-S, WilkinsMazdaCars.com. Wilkins Mazda is conveniently located in Elmhurst off York Road and 290, just minutes from Oak Brook downtown in Schaumburg. Experience the next level of excellence at Wilkins Mazda in Elmhurst. Visit WilkinsMazdaCars.com. See dealer for details. Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, Jim Carr here. I am the owner of Car Machine and Tool in Elk Grove Village and loyal customer of Signature Bank. As a second-generation owner, I knew I had to shift from operating as an old-school machine shop to what I can proudly say is now one of the fastest-growing aerospace manufacturing facilities in the region. Signature Bank was there every step of the way through our expansion efforts, including financing our new state-of-the-art facility. Their valuable industry expertise and constant communication throughout the construction process made our vision possible. Many thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Car Machine and Tool. You set the bar high for other banks.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
All right, I can't wait to do it. In fact, I'm going to do it at this top of the hour. Take Balance of Nature. Why? Did I have any fruits and vegetables yesterday? Did you have any fruits and vegetables yesterday? If not, that's where Balance of Nature comes in. There's 31 whole fruits and vegetables. The fruit tablets are red. The vegetable tablets are green. There's no chemicals, no dyes, GMO, gluten-free, all natural. They take the fruits and veggies and they powder them after an advanced vacuum cold process, which stabilizes the maximum nutrient content. People who take it swear by it. They say that at least they're doing something for their body. So get the nutrition your body needs and your body craves, because good nutrition, as you know, is the foundation of all aspects of health. 800-246-8751, 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago, or simply go online to balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
Hun, we need to stop putting off getting life insurance.
I know. It's just been so busy, and I'm sure the cost is out of our budget.
Well, Jen told me that they got a $500,000 term life insurance policy from Ethos for less than $23 a month. All online with no complicated forms and no medical exam. All they had to do was answer a few health questions.
Wait, no medical exam and all online?
I know, right? It's not easy to think about, but if something happened to you, James and I would be...
Okay, I get it. Let's get a quote from Ethos right now. Wow, you were right. There's no medical exam, and Ethos makes the whole online process fast and easy. And look at these rates and coverage options. It's great protection and totally fits our budget.
Ethos. They've removed all the barriers from getting coverage. Go to checkethos.com to get your free online quote. That's checkethos.com. Quote based on a healthy, non-smoking 30-year-old male with a 20-year term policy. Rates may vary.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Make sure to get your shots. I'm talking about your TB shot because an ambulance was called to the 18th district yesterday. 3 migrants, 18, 21, 47, tested positive for tuberculosis. 808.
It's now 8 a.m. WIND Chicago.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. And in addition to Congress being on the clock to fund the government to avoid a partial shutdown next month, House Republicans are getting ready to go after President Biden as they probe any role he had in his son Hunter's business dealings.
Fox is confirming that the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, wants the House to pursue an impeachment inquiry. Now, McCarthy called it, quote, the logical next step for their investigations into the president and his family. So what happens next? Well, a meeting to discuss impeachment is set for Thursday morning. It's the House GOP conference, and they want the key committee chairs like Jim Jordan of Judiciary and James Comer of Oversight to lay out their latest findings in the status of their investigations.
That's Fox's Griff Jenkins. Now, House Republicans are also critical of the possible prisoner swap with Iran to free 5 detained Americans that would not just also free jailed Iranians, but also...
Secretary of State Antony Blinken has signed off on waiving sanctions to allow $6 billion in frozen Iranian funds to be transferred from South Korea to Qatar without financial institutions facing U.S. penalties. That money, the administration says, can only be used for humanitarian goods and will be closely monitored.
Fox's Jared Halper. North Korea's leaders now in Russia, where Kim Jong-un could offer weapons and ammo for Russia to use in its war in Ukraine, perhaps in exchange for economic aid for North Korea and nuclear technology. In Pennsylvania, an escaped prisoner now has a gun. Danilo Cavalcante, who broke out 12 days ago, broke into a house last night.
Stole the .22 caliber rifle with a scope and a flashlight, made off with the gun. The homeowner shot at Cavalcante. It's unclear if Cavalcante was hit, but it prompted a big police response.
Fox's Nate Foy in Chester County, Pennsylvania. Cavalcante escaped days after getting a life sentence for murdering an ex-girlfriend. There's a flooding disaster in Libya. Heavy rain caused flash floods, wiping away entire neighborhoods in the city of Derna. 10,000 people missing in the muddy water. America's listening to Fox News.
Think identity theft won't happen to you.
802, 57 degrees on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. 5 firefighters hurt after a Chicago fire truck crashes into a home in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood. Truck crashed near 77th and Damon around 10 p.m. last night. Trial underway for 2 former DCFS employees who were involved in the A.J. Friend case. Carlos Acosta and his former supervisor, Andrew Polovin, each face charges of endangering the life of a child and reckless conduct. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote this week on a $25 million settlement in a Chicago police misconduct case. Case involved 2 men wrongfully convicted of murdering a college basketball standout 3 decades ago. Tyrone Hood and Wayne Washington each sued the city separately, claiming CPD officers fabricated evidence and coerced testimony to win murder convictions in the 1993 killing of Marsha Morgan Jr. A body pulled from Lake Michigan over the weekend is now being identified as that of a man who went missing last week after jumping off of a boat. Cook County ME's office revealing that Brian Jackson was found unresponsive on the rocks at Promontory Point Sunday. Jackson disappeared after jumping into the lake off a boat last week, about a mile off the 31st Street harbor. Aerosmith postponing its Chicago concert this week. The Rock and Roll Hall of Famers announcing that 6 shows in all have been scrubbed, while their lead singer Steven Tyler recovers from a vocal cord injury. Cubs topped the Rockies in Denver 5-4. Sox and Royals wiped out by rain. They'll have a doubleheader today. The news, a service of Dan and Amy 24/7, around the clock, all day, every day. Listen now, danandamy247.com. 8:04. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Apple is expected to reveal its iPhone 15, new Apple Watches, and potentially new AirPods at its annual fall launch event today. The stock is modestly higher. Oracle shares are losing ground after a cautious forecast. However, analysts at Guggenheim say Oracle's growth story is still intact. Oracle's cloud business in the recent quarter was stronger than predicted. Economists at the American Bankers Association now believe the U.S. economy is likely to dodge a recession if the Federal Reserve is finished raising interest rates. The owner of Westfield Malls has decided to pull back from its aggressive plan to sell nearly all of its properties. The Wall Street Journal says the company intends to hold on to some of its top-performing U.S. malls. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees only one way for DeSantis.
The strategy has to be, listen, I want to win. I want to beat Joe Biden. I support the MAGA movement. I support what Trump accomplished. I support his ideology. I just don't think he can win, but I can. That's the only way Ron DeSantis is going to be the nominee.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. Your business and your money are in good hands with Signature Bank. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Nick Philippus, co-owner of Joe Donut and a proud customer of Signature Bank. We're a locally owned artisan donut shop that focuses on chef-made small batch and craft donuts. We have 7 locations around the Chicagoland suburbs, with an 8th location coming soon. After opening our original stores in Glenview and Niles, we came to Signature Bank for financing for our new Mount Prospect location. From PPP and material delays in construction, Signature Bank was flexible and truly a banking partner that a small business like ours hadn't experienced before. Even their fraud department was able to stop a $30,000 fraudulent check from clearing our account. That allowed us to focus on selling donuts, knowing Signature Bank had our back.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we've represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Springfield area attorneys. 2815 Old Jacksonville Road, Suite 103, Springfield, Illinois, 62704.
Think identity theft won't happen to you? Think again. There's a new victim every 3 seconds in the U.S. Over 15 million this year alone. And many don't even know they're victims. LifeLock alerts you to identity threats you could miss, even when you monitor your credit. If your identity is stolen, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
It's 8:08, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Edens Expressway 41, Lake Cook Road to the junction. Kennedy inbound, it is now 85 minutes from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Kennedy outbound has an accident at Foster. It's almost an hour. We'll call it 56 right now from the Burns Circle outbound to the big airport. Ike, 74 minutes from 390 into the old post office. Stevenson inbound, they've just cleared that medical emergency inbound at First Avenue. 77 minutes in from 355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the Dan Ryan at 45 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies early, then some sun later on. High 69. Partly cloudy, brief shower or two tonight, low 55. Clouds, a bit of rain tomorrow, the high 66. Sunshine, terrific day on Thursday, the high at 73. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
57 at O'Hare, next news 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas Coffee, a family tradition since 1897. Online at papanicholas.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We were talking a bit last hour with Mark Leonard from wirepoints.org about the forthcoming 10 cities that BLM Brandon has described, but he hasn't exactly identified where they're going to go, how many will be set up, who gets the contract to erect them. That's big money.
Big, huge money. But he's asking every alderman to pick out a 2-acre site in their ward to be a possible host.
Whole of the city approach. I love it. It's wonderful. Everybody gets some. Nobody gets left out.
Yeah, and here's Andre Vasquez, Immigrant and Refugee Rights Committee Chairman. He has a new title.
And rapper.
I think what was made clear, and I think should be made clear to everybody, is that because of the scale of what we're looking at, every neighborhood has to share in the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing is caring.
You're right. Alderman Moore says, sorry, not going to help out.
I'm a believer in help your people first, help yourselves first, help your community first, and then reach out and help others.
Sounds like somebody's not participating in the welcoming culture. Victor Davis Hanson, writing recently at amgreatness.com about what the left did to our country, many, many things. He writes this: immigration now is akin to the vast unchecked influences of the late Roman Empire across the Danube and Rhine that helped finish off a millennium-old civilization that had lost all confidence in its culture and thus had no need for borders. I wonder why he's making that observation. Perhaps he's sees a parallel on the horizon. For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined by Mark Krikorian. He's the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, and he's in studio with us because he's speaking at Notre Dame University this evening. I hope Father Jenkins isn't listening because that speech will probably be canceled if he is. Mark, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah. How are you treated on college campuses?
Well, sometimes ignored, and other times the usual, mobs of people, bullhorns screaming, that kind of thing. It kind of depends on how widely publicized the talk is.
Reasoned rejoinders from the left about how you're a hate monger and white supremacist, those sorts of things. You obviously have some idea what's happening in Chicago, like New York, like most urban centers around the country. Same policies, different names, but basically the same politicians. Obviously, Eric Adams, what he said this week about somehow migrants are going to ruin New York City, that's heresy. But we don't see any course correction despite all the protestation. We just see more demand from the cities for cash from the federal government.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the difference that Mayor Adams and, frankly, the mayors of lots of blue cities could make, is if they got together and said, okay, we don't hate foreigners, but holy moly, enough is enough. Mr. President, we're your, members of your party, we're insisting you've got to stop this catch and release stuff. It started on Inauguration Day. I mean, this isn't something that just happened to Joe Biden. He created this problem, and it's going to be harder to kind of fix it to stop it than it was to start it, but you can do it. And that is the only thing I think that might get the administration to change if all of these blue city mayors get together and say, this has got to stop. I'm not holding my breath, though.
But what if they declare that they're not sanctuary cities anymore, or sanctuary counties, or sanctuary states? Would that make a difference?
It might make a little difference, except that the people that Biden is letting go, they're giving them a piece of paper. Even though they're illegal aliens, they're, technically, at least for a period of time, legally here. And so I think ending sanctuary policies would make a big symbolic difference, a symbolic effect. But it's not like that would then allow ICE to swoop in and start getting rid of these folks, because ICE isn't allowed to do its job anyway. It's run by the Biden administration. That's the one letting all these people go.
Yeah, but in addition to the symbolic nature, at least you would have police in communication with ICE, so that we're doing the best we can, even though we're handcuffed by the federal government, as opposed to we're doing the best we can, even though we're handcuffed by federal, state, and local government.
Right. Now, I mean, look, I'm all for getting rid
Yeah,
of sanctuary
right,
policies. There's
right.
no excuse for them. But the whole point to sanctuary policies is that when ICE calls and says, hey, this guy you arrested for beating up his wife, popped up flagged on our system, please hold on to him. We want to come pick him up. And a sanctuary city basically flips in the bird and says, no, we're going to let the guy go. But if ICE isn't asking them to hold on to people, then in a sense, we sort of have a sanctuary country within which we have sanctuary cities, too.
And there's no plan in place so they go to their merit hearings, and if they don't earn asylum, there's nothing in place to take them back to the country where they came from.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I mean, it's not as though they usher you to the hearing and then the judge says, sorry, you don't qualify, and then they say, okay, now we're going to take you to the plane. They send you a letter called a run letter. Basically, I mean, it's what they call it inside the agency, because it's like, okay, well, now you run. And now you don't even have to run because ICE won't track you down in any case. And that all assumes you even have a hearing. In New York, they're letting a lot of these people go, obviously, at the border, and say, turn yourself into ICE when you get there. Literally, that's what they call it. Well, in New York, ICE has said they are backed up for appointments for people to turn themselves in and even start the process until 2033.
Right.
So it's that, in other words,
right.
The idea of even getting to a hearing on the merits of a claim for asylum, assuming you even bother to apply, is something, even that is years in the future.
The other thing that's happening, too, this has been a bit underreported. I mean, certainly you're not talking about anything like the numbers at the southern border, but we've had an increase in people coming over the northern border, like more people coming over the northern border illegally this year than in the past decade combined.
Right. I mean, the numbers, like you said, are starting from a much lower level, but they've hugely increased because, Joe Biden has put out what in Spanish they call la invitación to the world, an invitation. In fact, that's the way the smugglers refer to it, an invitation to illegal immigration. And some people, if they can get into Canada or they have a connection there or they don't want to deal with the desert, it's safer, obviously, to walk across a maple forest into Vermont. I mean, I've been at the border up there, and the Canadians actually kind of have a good handle on it. They got cameras on trees and everything watching the border, but they don't care if people are leaving Canada and going into the United States.
Right. And of course, people are being checked for criminal background, for infectious disease. So it was a surprise to me, I mentioned a bit earlier, this from Chicago Contrarian. We've learned an ambulance was called to the 18th Police District yesterday in late afternoon to respond to 3 illegals aged 18, 21, and 47 who required medical attention for tuberculosis. So forget the COVID booster. Make sure you got your tuberculosis shots up to date here in Chicago.
Look, there are hundreds of thousands of people a month turning themselves in at the border, and Biden is letting them go. How much, can they do as far as vetting whether health-related or criminal background or whatever? I mean, yeah, they run their names through and see if they have a conviction or something in the United States, but it's not like you can call up the Tajikistan DMV and say you have anything on this guy, let alone...
Do you have that 800 number?
Yeah, exactly. I have it in on my phone. Let alone the kind of detailed medical stuff. I mean, they look at you. Obviously, if there's, Ebola coming out of your eyes, they do something about it. I mean, they do those kind of basic checks, but it's very cursory. and then they let them go.
And the kids that are enrolled at CPS, they don't have to have a vaccination of
Oh,
any
really?
of
I
any
didn't know
kind.
that.
No,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
no
because
vaccinations required for anything.
illegal alien privilege is what it's called.
Well, the other thing,
Double standard.
the other thing too, in addition to Invitacion, there's cash and prizes associated with that. I'm not just talking about winterized tents. We got a report from a friend, cop, called to a house at 60th and Princeton. 17 migrants squatting in a house, 5 cars in the driveway, all unclaimed impound cars given to them by the city. So now we have the city giving unclaimed impound cars to people here illegally so they can, get around.
They have driver's licenses. I mean, I guess maybe that doesn't count either.
We do.
Probably not insurance.
We
either.
do driver certs here, but we're not sticklers about it.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, but see, that's the thing. And even the 17 people in the house thing, most places have occupancy rules. Only so many unrelated people can live in a house. This happened in suburban Washington, where I live, where they just said, yeah, we don't enforce those laws if it's illegal immigrants that are the ones violating them.
Well, what do you take? I mean, is this the only city where migrants are sleeping at police stations? We have close to 800 airports, police. But this morning,
I didn't see them at O'Hare when I came in.
Well, they're behind a black,
right.
black curtain. They're trying to, make sure that you don't see it. But reports this morning from CWB that the migrants are parking their cars in police officer spots.
Oh my
at
gosh.
the districts.
Unbelievable.
I mean, what are they going to take next from them?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. On the other hand, I mean, the police have their hands full, right? I mean, in Chicago anyway. So.
Well, yeah. 10th District police were forced to move a memorial honoring Officer Ella French, who was killed in action, into the community room because they had to accommodate 130 illegals that are staying in the 10th District. So I mean,
that just makes me sick.
There's no indignity we won't inflict upon ourselves. I mean, but that's the story of big blue city America.
It's open. In this case, it's open borders uber alles is the way I put it.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I even wrote a piece years ago on this that every interest group on the left will sacrifice whatever their ostensible purpose or objective is if it conflicts with open borders. ACLU, there's a great story on this. There was a guy in New York, kind of a gadfly activist, and he put up this billboard that had 2 little kids and said, "Immigration will double America's population in our lifetime. Do you think that's a good idea?" on a website. Very innocuous thing. The city government of New York came to the owner of the billboard and said, "You're taking that down or we're coming down on you like a ton of bricks." Explicit political censorship. He went to the New York ACLU, and they said, "Well, yeah, you're right. That is explicit political censorship. But, we got immigrant rights people here in our organization, so we're going to have to pass."
Yeah, I mean, don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. It's interesting. New York, this was like a blaring headline. 41% of New Yorkers surveyed want Biden to build a border wall. Well, that's New York State.
Right.
41%. That's a smaller percentage of the vote than Lee Zeldin got, the Republican candidate for governor. So that's not exactly like a revolt is happening because of the migrant invasion in New York. Well, not invasion. They were welcomed in. They were transported. They were welcome. So because of the migrant population that has descended on New York City, that's not exactly like overwhelming negative reaction. They still can't bring themselves, no matter what Eric Adams says, no matter what anybody says, no matter what they see, no matter what they experience, they can't bring themselves to be commonsensical about this.
Yeah, and this happens all over. I mean, you'll have scenes of people, communities really getting ticked off, whether it's in South Chicago here, whether it's in Staten Island in New York. But ultimately, I think there's 2 things. One, it's hard for people to just, change their minds on stuff. But I also think part of it is Trump. And look, I voted for the guy twice, but the point is, for a lot of people, they hate him so much, anything he says, they want the opposite. If he said you should take a shower every day, they'd stop bathing. And so because immigration is so associated with him, I think there are a lot of people on the left that just can't bring themselves to saying, well, yeah, he's kind of right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're right, but I mean, that's just such an idiotic position
disagree.
To take, because it's not about Trump. It's not even, this predates Trump by 40 years, and it will post-date him by 40 years. It's like, this is politicians come and go. It was Pete Wilson in the 90s in California. Right. We were talking about this, too. It's like, come on. Just, would you wake up and broaden your understanding of the world beyond what Trump says or does in any given moment? I mean, it's so sophomoric. These people are, I guess I don't know. They need to be, they need to be challenged. They need to be
they need
flogged.
To be.
I don't
it's
know.
Kind of
something.
like in the 60s, they used to say that a conservative was a liberal who got mugged.
Mugged by reality.
You're kind of seeing some of that. It's just very slow and very hard. And I think part of the reason is the left, at least at the kind of elite level, the elected officials and opinion leaders, they have radicalized on immigration in such a way that they don't think the American people actually have the right to say no to anybody. And so they see immigration law kind of as like Jim Crow.
There's no difference between citizens and non-citizens. There should be no difference.
Exactly.
No difference in rights and privileges.
And why would you enforce the border if that's the case?
Right. And so this is it too. I had this discussion with Victor Davis Hanson the other day. We all, just acknowledge what is true. We all treat 115 people dead in Maui through wildfires, by wildfires, or 900 people, 1,000 people killed in the hurricane that hit New Orleans, Katrina. We treat it differently than 2,700 people killed in a earthquake in Morocco.
Sure.
They're all tragedies, and we want to help people in Morocco and relief agencies and send money and do all that. But we treat it differently. Why? Because we understand our first duty is to our fellow American. We just innately know that. And what they're trying to do is sort of, meld humanity to unlearn what is innate.
Yeah, but I mean, it's innate because obviously you take care of your family before you take care of the neighbors, et cetera.
Exactly.
The thing is that these guys are. It's not so much that they're anti-American. I mean, some of them probably are, Jane Fonda types, but they're at best post-American. They've moved beyond that. America for them is kind of like, living in New Jersey instead of New York City or something. It's a place you live. You may even like it, but it's not like you actually have some kind of moral responsibility to the people who live there any different from you have to anybody else.
Right. To take that position is to be
exclusionary.
And also, you're not cosmopolitan. Right. You're not a citizen of the world.
Exactly.
Mark. Right. The late Roman Empire lost all confidence in the culture, thus no need for borders.
It's totally different from the Roman Empire because they came from the northern border of the Roman Empire.
Now you're speaking at Notre Dame tonight. What's the topic? What's the
kind of what's going on in immigration? Sort of generally, what's the kind of stuff we're talking about. What's going on,
and whether or not they can compete with the NIL money that Colorado's players are getting. Mark Krikorian, Executive Director, Center for Immigration Studies. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Rick here from Forever Remodeling. You probably heard me talk about how our unique design-build process removes the normal problems of hiring a design and construction company separately. But just don't take my word for it. Listen to these customer reviews. Kelly W. says, from consultation to design to construction, my remodel flowed seamlessly. Adity J says, we were thrilled to have a full-service remodeling firm take all the guesswork out of our project. And Caesar V says, Forever Remodeling made what could have been a very stressful project extremely easy for us. They finished on time and did amazing work. Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, additions, whole house remodeling, whatever you need, our start-to-finish process delivers stunning results without the hassles, headaches, and stress. For a free consultation, call Forever Remodeling at 847-809-3355 or visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number foreverremodeling.com.
A message brought to you by Paul Davis Restoration of North Chicago. It's a beautiful summer day in the Midwest. No clouds in sight, but on the horizon we spot trouble.
Oh no! I just received a call from my condo building manager, and 3 floors burned in a fire last night. My unit was severely damaged from soot and smoke. Now what do I do? Who do I call?
You call Paul Davis Restoration. Nobody expects to experience an insurance loss. The truth is, fires, floods, tornadoes, hail, and just plain bad things happen to over 1 million homeowners annually. You could be one of them. Whether you face a business or residential catastrophe, Paul Davis Restoration is ready to help you from the instant the fire is out, the tornado has passed through, or the floodwaters have receded. We have a 25,000 square foot warehouse within minutes of the Chicago Loop and can pack out clean, restore your items, and return them to you in record time. Visit Paul Davis Restoration online at pauldavischicago.com or call 773-883-8000. That's 773-883-8000 or online at pauldavischicago.com. That's pauldavischicago.com or call 773-883-8000 or online at pauldavischicago.com.
Men.
And women.
It's sometimes hard to talk about, but it takes a real toll on your life. Pelvic floor issues. What is that?
Pelvic pain, rectal pain, pain with intimacy, pelvic organ prolapse, painful or loss of bladder or bowel control, overactive or underactive bladder, and constipation.
Good news. Cotorinos Physical Therapy pioneered many of the physical therapy approaches to drastically change the problems you are dealing with without drugs. Strategies to fix the problem. It's time to make the call and have a conversation.
630-620-0232. Don't feel like there's nothing you can do, because there is.
Pelvic floor issues can affect your sleep, your activities, and your life. Cotorinos Physical Therapy has been helping people for over 46 years. It's their specialty.
They simply know more about it. They successfully treat men and women of all ages, and they can help you too. Call and ask about your issues.
Cotorinos Physical Therapy, 630-620-0232. Go to pelvictreatment.com.
Pelvictreatment.com. 3 Chicagoland locations. Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm telling you, I'll be 74 in May, and I can't tell you how good I feel. I'm telling you, have my sister on it and her husband and so many different people.
It's just what the advertisements say, which is you get more energy. It really is a balance that the body needs, because if you just take regular people's diet, there's no way that they get the amount of servings of vegetables and fruits that they need. And so what this does, it assures that you are getting that. It really is. It's a beautiful name, Balance of Nature. And I tell everybody about it. When you got other people recommending it, it's a big thing.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham doubles down on her declaration of martial law. We'll discuss with John Lott from the Crime Prevention Research Center at 8:38.
Yeah, she spoke again this morning on CNN. We'll have it. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
57 degrees at 8:32. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy plans to endorse an impeachment inquiry into President Biden this week. McCarthy telling House Republicans it is a logical next step in the ongoing investigations into the Biden family. Hurricane Lee could become a Category 4 storm later today. The slow-moving storm is churning far out in the Atlantic, but it likely will bring rip currents to Florida and the Caribbean. American scientist Mark Dickey is safe, rescued from a cave in southern Turkey where he's been trapped 3,000 feet underground for more than a week. The opening bell rings on Wall Street after stocks finished higher to start the week on Wall Street. At the opening bell, the Dow is up 87, the Nasdaq climbed 156. The bench trial for two former DCFS employees involved in the A.J. Friend case, Carlos Acosta and his former supervisor, Andrew Polovin, continues today. A man shot in the leg near the newly opened Bally's temporary casino in the River North neighborhood. It happened Monday early morning in the 600 block of North State. Community members in Highland Park are sharing mixed reactions over a now canceled event meant to simulate what it's like to live in poverty.
What we want from you, number one, a public apology to your residents and anyone offended by your attempt at poverty cosplay.
The poverty simulation was scheduled for the Highland Park Country Club this past weekend. At a city council meeting yesterday, the city manager defended the program.
We do believe that this is an established program to help individuals understand the wide-ranging consequences of economic insecurity, and it was very well received by a number of different partner agencies.
The city manager said no taxpayer funds were used to promote the event, started by a Missouri-based community action group. Jan Gomes drove in 2 in the 9th inning as Cubs topped the Rockies in Denver. 5-4. Sox and Royals rained out, doubleheader today. The news, a service of the AM 560 store. T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
The Democrat base, the army of mafia misfits. They're not aligned with us. They don't want to fix the problem and have the principles of Americanism. The people who support Democrats to this day, right now, who will, no matter what, vote for Joe Biden or a earthworm, they will continue to be the problem.
The Sean Thompson Show, weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary. Oil and natural gas keep going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects and a huge tax savings for this year. If you invest in oil and natural gas, you're allowed to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel, and natural gas is the fuel of the future and trading at record prices. Call 800-287-6691. Encore Energy is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-287-6691. That's 800-287-6691.
Barbecue bags and brews sound great right about now. But are you really ready to entertain on that dirty, oil-stained driveway or patio? No oil stain removal is too big or too small for Cabino Environmental. Whether you're a homeowner or a business owner, you can use Cabino Oil Stain Remover. It's a safe, effective, and powerful oil stain lifting formula. This is not the same stuff you buy at the big box store. This is a concentrated, all-natural stain lifter that goes deep into the concrete or brick for superior cleaning. Simply pour it on the soiled area, let it dry, and then brush away. Start your cleanup at CabinoEnvironmental.com. The Cabino Environmental Response Team will come to your rescue across Northern Illinois and the Milwaukee area. And you can purchase the Cabino Oil Stain Remover online and have it shipped anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. Can't wait? Cabino Oil Stain Remover is also now available at your local Rental Max.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I feel better. I look better. I have more energy, everything. And I'm 60 years old.
Oh my gosh, you need to share every bit of the success. I'm in love with them, and I'm going to keep on taking them until the end of time because my body clearly is doing something with Balance of Nature. I mean, my skin looks good, and I've got energy, and I walk, talk fast, and you can see that I'm up with these fruit and vegetables.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751. Or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Wealth Management Group, hosted by Craig and Leslie Bolano Sunday mornings at 10. Learn more at investwithwmg.com.
8:38, quick update on the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, a service of Pfizer. If you're 60 or older, RSV can be a dangerous respiratory virus. Not all dangers come with a warning label. Talk to your pharmacist and doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today, and learn more at bewareofrsv.com. Eden's inbound 45 minutes, Lake Cook Road to the junction. Kennedy inbound, right now it's 90 minutes from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike accident left shoulder as you're coming inbound at Central, 73 minutes in, 390 to the old post office. Stevenson, 75 minutes, 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the Dan Ryan, 43 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Clouds will give way to sun in a high of 69. 59 right now. Next news coming up at 9. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
You know, this show isn't for everybody. If you're not interested in the truth, if you're not interested in having a conversation on the merits, then don't listen to this show.
On AM 560.
Because there's no place for you here.
The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We began our discussion yesterday about what New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham did over the weekend, which is to suspend the constitutional rights of Albuquerque residents and residents of the surrounding area for 30 days, suspend their right to protect themselves, their constitutional Second Amendment rights. She explained herself thusly.
Last follow-up.
Yeah. But your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those too. And if we ignore this growing problem without being bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute, okay. You're talking about crimes. There are already laws against the crimes, so how are their rights?
I got it, but again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right? If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
She is a megalomaniac.
The do something exception to your constitutional rights. The astounding thing, in addition to her feeble understanding of the Constitution, is that there are people that are going to listen to her and agree. But sort of surprisingly, David Hogg isn't one of them. David Hogg is that noxious gun banning activist who was a Parkland High School mass shooting survivor. He tweeted out, "I support gun safety, but there is no such thing as a state public health emergency exception to the United States Constitution." Wow, somebody's growing up.
Whoa.
Maybe you should run for governor of New Mexico.
This morning she was on CNN just explaining why she's doing what is motivating her to do this.
Why do it if it can't be enforced?
Well, that's their opinion. They have no bold actions. They don't have any plans for reducing gun violence. every single aspect in terms of preventing gun violence, funds, crime labs, more than $150 million for retention bonuses and recruitment of new police officers. I'm focused on one thing. We have the third highest gun-related injuries in the country, 90% higher than the national average. We lost 143 children between 2017 and 2021. It is unacceptable, and it calls for immediate and swift and bold action. And frankly, the evidence bears out over and over again. Fewer guns on the streets makes everyone safer, and I'm focused on everyone's constitutional rights, not just those the NRA says I should be focused on.
Well, she's wrong on the Constitution. She's also wrong on the public policy implications, and we'll get to John Lott in a second. But there's something else. I'm focused on the constitutional rights of crime victims. There's no disagreement there. I mean, as the person who asked her a question over the weekend about her decision, you're talking about crime victims. Their rights were violated. We have laws against violating their rights, and then you have police, and then you have a court system. You have a criminal justice system. You're familiar with this. But apparently, Michelle Loudoun Grisham is going to be judge, jury, and executioner here as it pertains to the ends justifying the means, the do something crowd. Don't just stand there, do something. I'm standing for crime victims, and because my cause is so righteous, I can suspend the rights of the law-abiding? So how does that make sense? It doesn't, but it's not intended to. And for, I don't know, half the country, maybe a little bit less, doesn't matter. The emotional appeal is enough. Oh, she's upset about children being killed. Like, who isn't? And again, ends justify the means? That's the society you want to live in. That's the question. And do you want to make an assessment about whether this will reduce the incidence of gun violence against the innocent? Again, how does taking away for 30 days my constitutional right to carry in New Mexico, and I'm a law-abiding dude, how is that going to save one life? Give me the explanation. She doesn't have to. John Lott is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, former senior advisor for research and stats at the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Policy, author of Gun Control Myths and More Guns, Less Crime. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was bound to happen. All these politicians say we have to do something after every mass shooting that generates media attention. Well, Michelle Loudoun Grisham has done something, hasn't she?
Well, I want to do something too, but I want to do something that will actually matter. You know, the bizarre thing here is she points to 3 children that have been murdered over the last few months in New Mexico. None of those and none of the other crimes that she talks about involve people who have concealed carry permits. In fact, if you look at New Mexico, in 2021, the last year that they have data for, there was 1 permit holder in the state who had their permit revoked. In 2019 and 2020, there were 0 that had their permits revoked. They have almost 50,000 permit holders.
You heard her, though. Less guns on the streets, less crime.
Well, you know, if you're talking about criminals who it's already illegal for them to be able to go and have guns, I agree. You don't want criminals having guns. But the problem is that the people she's taking it away from aren't doing any of the crimes that she's talking about. The concealed carry permit holders in New Mexico and other places, Illinois and every place else, tend to be extremely law-abiding individuals. And so, you know, even the sheriff for the county where she's imposed this ban said yesterday in a press conference that, quote, this ban does nothing to curb gun violence, end quote, because it's taking away guns from the people who they're having no problem with. You know, in fact, she's talking about these road rage incidents. There's actually road rage incidents just recently in New Mexico that were stopped because somebody had a permitted concealed handgun. So she wants to protect people. Well, the police weren't there all the time when you had some of these attacks that were occurring, but the permit holder was able to protect themselves and their families because when they were being attacked. And so, the sheriff, one of the other things he mentioned was he had a couple relatives who had been victims of crime, and they had guns to protect themselves. And he wasn't going to go and enforce this edict because he didn't want to make it so his relatives weren't able to protect themselves. New Mexico has had a 70% increase in murders during the time that the governor has been governor there. But the main reason is that they have very few police officers in Albuquerque, the major city there. They have one of the lowest per capita number of police officers in the country. The number of police officers have been cut. In fact, the police chief for the city there has said that they have about half as many police officers as they should have there, and they can't even go and answer calls from victims for crimes because they don't have people to even man the phones. So, rather than going and taking responsibility for a lot of kind of left-wing policies that have cut the number of police officers, have district attorneys in the major county there who are kind of Soros-backed, who aren't willing to go and prosecute violent criminals. Rather than taking responsibility and trying to fix obvious things there like that, they're forced to go and try to blame something else. In this case, they want to go and blame guns.
So you don't think any police officers will actually enforce this, do you? And hand out civil penalties?
The police chief for Albuquerque, the county sheriff, have both said that they will not enforce this. And they've said the reason why they're not going to enforce it is because it will not be helpful in reducing violent crime. And they made the same point that I've made, that all you're doing is taking away guns from the people who you have no problem with, who actually use the gun to help stop crime. And, you're not doing anything to take away the guns from the bad people there that are causing the crime. It's already illegal for them to do that.
It's just, I honestly don't even know what the point of trying to reason this out is. Because if you listen to Michelle Lujan Grisham, or if you talk to her, I mean, it's clear that reason is not going to penetrate. Whether it's just like a general lack of intellectual capacity or just indifference for political reasons. But what it does tell you is that, as has often been said, is that this is the actual disposition of the leftist politician. You can't believe it. You don't hear them say it. Rarely you do, some gambit like this. But this is the actual position, which is they want to disarm the law-abiding, and they're always looking for opportunities to incur. And another argument she made uses like, this is constitutional because we have a universal background check that we pass at the state level, as if that's an apples-to-apples comparison. But it doesn't matter. There's no reasoning with somebody like that.
Well, I mean, obviously, as we're saying, it's going to accomplish the exact opposite of what she wants. I suppose the most difficult thing that I have is I just don't understand why they don't say, okay, Albuquerque has very few police officers. Why don't we go and hire more police officers there? Why don't we? I mean, they've had a huge problem retaining police because they don't pay them very much, and they've had all this politically correct regulations that they've imposed on the police.
Because police is not part of her constituency. That's why.
Well, I mean, the victims hopefully are, but it's just.
This is the workaround. I mean, it's like I think we need to stop being so commonsensical and reasonable and fact based and point to what they're actually doing. Why she's actually doing this. She can't hire more police because they're not part of her constituency. She has to deal with crime victims and the spike in violence that she details and you detailed. So the way she does that is to say, don't pay attention to the police. We have too many guns on the streets. We see the same thing in every urban center. They do the same routine, the same two-step. Too many guns on the streets. Got to get guns off the streets. Blah blah blah. This is why we've got a arbitrary and capricious sport rifle ban in Illinois pending before the Seventh Circuit. I mean, that's what they do. They do it in Illinois. They do it in New Mexico. That's just what they do. Let's explain what the left is doing in these great examples of what they're doing, rather than trying to pretend there's any possibility of reasoning with people like this.
But, one of the things with New Mexico, like Illinois, they make it very costly for people to go and get concealed carry permits. If it were me, what I do, my evidence indicates that it's particularly poor people who live in high crime urban areas who are the ones who benefit the most from being able to go and have guns for protection. And so, in Illinois, when you add the fees and the training costs, you're talking about like over $400 to go and get a concealed carry permit. Who do you think you're stopping from being able to go and protect themselves?
Yeah.
It's not wealthy whites who live in the suburbs. And the same thing in New Mexico, where they have high fees also for doing it. If you want to go and reduce the violent crime, you have to make it so that the people who live in those high crime areas, which tend to be low income areas, are able to go and protect themselves.
Yeah.
And yet, the notion of making it.
And then those people that live in the high crime areas vote for Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker and Michelle Lujan Grisham. So, you cast your lot, honestly. Speaking of that, John Law, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, former senior advisor for research and stats at DOJ's Office of Legal Policy, and author of Gun Control Myths and More Guns, Less Crime, among other books. John, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks. People can find more at our website at crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Now are you ready to hit new heights? Now tell me.
The second round of the Super Motocross World Championship playoffs is set to take Chicago by storm. For the world's best dirt bike racers, now is the time to make their move to prove they have what it takes to be the first ever Super Motocross World Champion. Who will be the one? The final quest for the Super Motocross World Championship, fueled by Monster Energy, continues at Chicagoland Speedway September 16th. FanFest included with ticket.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 40-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term life insurance may only cost you about $100 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-352-9239. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-352-9239. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-352-9239. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. For affordable term life insurance, call 800-352-9239. 800-352-9239 or biglou.com.
Hi, it's Randy Donnelly from Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois, and I want to talk to you about your unused basement rec rooms. We all had them back in the 60s and 70s with jukeboxes, pinballs, and slot machines, Coca-Cola signs, and even gas pumps. We all had a great time in those days, but fast forward, and I'll bet you haven't gone down there in years. That's where I can help by turning those items into cash through Donnelly Auctions. We have thousands of customers online eager to bid on your items, and it's easier than you might think. Just give me a call at 815-923-7000, and I'll make those items fit in your wallet. Look us up online at DonnellyAuctions.com to see all of the items that we can sell for you. Give me a call today at 815-923-7000, and don't forget to check out the Donnelly Auctions Hour Saturdays at 1 o'clock on AM 560. Subscribe and check out the podcast too. I'm Randy Donnelly, and I'll see you at the auction.
TV news. It's a love-hate relationship. Well, let's be honest. More hate. We agree. That's why we're different. Salem News Channel has assembled the greatest collection of conservative minds all in one place. Home to Charlie Kirk, Hugh Hewitt, Eric Metaxas, and more. There's finally a place on TV for lovers of freedom like you. Watch anytime, on any screen, free 24/7. Find what you're looking for at snc.tv. That's snc.tv. AM 560, The Answer.
All right. Thanks so much for making us part of your morning, part of your lives. Thanks to Justin Kosick, our technical producer, and Quinn McCarthy, our executive producer. Dan, you doing anything fun today?
No.
No? No fun? Done? You're done talking? You've had enough? Gonna
Done.
save it for the show tomorrow?
I'm going into my safe space now.
Okay, thanks. Now let's go into Mike Scott's safe space in the newsroom. Good morning, Mike.
Chicago Alderman DeVone on a $25 million police misconduct settlement today. Freshman class sets an enrollment record at U of I. WIND Chicago News Time is 9 o'clock. $59 degrees in Chicago. It's 9 o'clock on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. 5 firefighters were injured after a fire truck crashed into a home in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood near 77th and Damon last night. Witnesses saying emergency lights were on at the time of the crash. Trial underway for 2 former DCFS employees involved in the A.J. Friend case. Carlos Acosta and his former supervisor, Andrew Polovin, are expected back at the bench trial today. They face charges of endangering the life of a child in reckless conduct. Police officer Kimberly Shipbaugh had been at the home after an injury to the young child.
That we could release these boys to her, not knowing how this injury occurred.
Both former DCFS workers were involved in a 2018 investigation into allegations that 5-year-old AJ had been abused. Acosta deemed the abuse accusation unfounded after consulting with Polovin. McHenry County State's Attorney Patrick Kennelly says that should never happen again.
The defendants closed this case without taking any protective action. Because of that, AJ is dead and buried, going on 4 years now, when he should have just started 4th grade.
The pair were later fired from DCFS following AJ's death in 2019. Friend's parents have been convicted and sentenced in that case. Chicago aldermen are expected to vote this week on a $25 million settlement in a Chicago police misconduct case. Body pulled from Lake Michigan over the weekend is being officially identified now as a man who went missing last week after jumping off a boat. Cook County ME's office revealing Brian Jackson was found unresponsive Sunday. Jackson disappearing after jumping into the lake off a boat last week. 2 liquor stores and a bar were robbed Sunday night on Chicago's northwest side. It's an investigation taken up by CPD